Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Christine Robinson, Mayor of West Grey, and welcome to our October 6th, 2020 West Grey Council meeting. All members of council are present, and good morning to staff, our guests, and to council. We are using audio only to conduct this electronic meeting. Video is not possible at this time due to limited bandwidth in some areas of West Grey. Bandwidth is challenging our ability to do a complete video broadcast. So for now, we'll be sharing today's agenda, presentation, and in addition to our audio. So on item 1, I'm calling the meeting to order. We do have a quorum. The agenda has been circulated. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the West Grey website, www.westgrey.com. The technology for this meeting is being managed by staff. And as usual, before I continue, I would ask Supervisor Hewlett to provide an overview on some of the key points for today's meeting. Supervisor Hewlett, please.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. Before I begin, if you get disconnected at any time during this meeting, you can dial 1-647-558-0588 and enter the meeting ID 821-2407-7874 to join us over the phone. Both members of council and staff have been briefed on the various features of the Zoom meeting software and will be using the raise their hand function to speak. Members of council will be using the green check mark to vote in favor of a motion and the red X to vote against a motion. Each member of council, after a vote, will then be called upon verbally to confirm their vote for the benefit of any guests who have joined us over the phone rather than using the online software. For members of the public, if you have any technical issues throughout the meeting, you can send a chat message to myself, Cody Hewlett, Recreation Supervisor, and I will attempt to assist you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Hewlett. On item 2, moment of reflection. So for members of council and those listening in, let's take a quiet moment at this time. Thank you. Item 3, declaration of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Members of council, do you have anything to declare? Seeing none, I will move on to item 4, delegations/presentations. Today, 4.1, Municipal Auditors, BDO Canada, LLP. For a presentation today, I welcome Kevin Tremble, Senior Manager. Just before we hear his presentation, Clerk Sharback, would you please read the motion?
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship, the recommendation is be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby accepts the Municipality of West Grey consolidated financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2019, as prepared by BDO Canada, LLP.
Is there a mover for this motion? Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, are you moving this motion?
Good morning. This is Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. I will move the motion.
Councillor Hergert, are you seconding this motion? Councillor Hergert? Is there an audio issue with Councillor Hergert?
If I may jump in, Madam Mayor, Councillor Hergert may be receiving a prompt that the host is attempting to unmute her. If she has other windows open, it may be behind that, and it should appear where Zoom is.
Councillor Hergert seconds the motion.
Thank you. Okay, welcome Kevin Tremble, Senior Manager, BDO. We would like to hear your presentation, please.
Thank you. As you mentioned, I'm the Senior Manager with BDO. I've been part of the annual audit for West Grey for the past 11 years now. So there is a package that was included in the council package from BDO here that includes the financial statements, along with kind of a verbiage that puts the statements in a little more layman terms to help everyone understand what's going on there. And then finally, there is a letter to the West Grey Council regarding our audit. So we did go in detail through all these reports with management last week. So this is going to be more of a high level review. And then at the end, we'll be open to any questions that any of the council members may have. So I'm going to start with the West Grey financial statements. On page 3, there's the independent auditor's report. So I think Cody's flipping to the slides here. It's not that document. It might be the next document. Yes, that one there. So on page 3, the independent audit report. So this is the report that BDO attaches to West Grey's financial statements indicating that they've completed their audit. One more page there, and their opinion on the audit. So the very first paragraph is the audit opinion that BDO has issued. So we have audited the consolidated financial statements of the Corporation of the Municipality of West Grey, which comprise the consolidated statements of financial position as at December 31st, 2019, and the consolidated statement of operations, changes in net financial assets, and consolidated cash flows for the year then ended. The next paragraph, in our opinion, the consolidated financial statements present fairly in all material respects the consolidated financial position of the municipality at December 30th, 2019, and its consolidated results of operations and cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. So what that means, it's a clean audit opinion, and that we didn't find anything during our audit that would be of any concern that would cause us to modify our audit opinion. So that's what you want to see every year. The basis of our opinion, so we've audited in accordance with Canadian generally accepted auditing standards. Further down there, it goes on to outline the responsibilities of management and those charged with governance of the consolidated financial statements. So these are management's and West Grey's financial statements. They're responsible for the preparation and presentation of the statements. BDO just issues the audit opinion. It goes on to say that those charged with governance, which would be council, are responsible for overseeing the municipal's financial reporting process. On the next page, it outlines the auditor's responsibility during the audit. So our responsibility is to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the consolidated financial statements are free of material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error, and to issue an auditor's report that includes our opinion. Reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance, but it's not a guarantee that an audit is conducted in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards. Will always detect a material misstatement when it exists. The audit report goes on to outline a bunch of different procedures that we complete during our audit to kind of give some context on what was all done. And then it goes on the next page there. The only other thing there is it's been dated October 6th. So this is the date that council approves the financial statements or takes responsibility for the financial statements. Okay. Flipping over to page 6 is the consolidated statement of financial position, or the balance sheet. So it's gonna be a high level review here. So you'll see the total financial assets has decreased from 10.5 million in 2018 to 9.2 million in 2019. And this is mostly because West Grey has done a good job at collecting overdue taxes. You can see that the taxes receivable has gone down from 2.5 million to 1.9 million this year. And I just want to point out that the taxes receivable balance back in 2015 was 3.3 million. So there's been some good effort there on collecting overdue taxes over the past 5 years. 3/4 of the way down the page, their liabilities are up $517,000 this year. And this is mostly due to federal gas tax money that was received during 2019, but not yet spent. So that's gas tax money is mostly used for bridges, sidewalks, and road projects. So there's just some money sitting there that hasn't been spent yet. That brings us down to our net financial assets. So that's our assets less your liabilities. They've decreased from 5.6 million to 3.8 million this year. At the bottom of the page there, non-financial assets are made up of prepaid expenses, inventories, and tangible capital assets. They're up $2.6 million this year, and that's mostly due to some large capital projects that happened in 2019. So that would be the big ones were the Bruce Street road reconstruction, the purchase of the police station land, and there was a loader tractor for public works purchased. Flipping over to the next page is the consolidated statement of operations or the income statement. Revenues are up $2.6 million in 2019, so they went from 16.5 million to 19.2 million. Some of the major swings there was West Grey received $790,000 from Grey County for Grey County's share in the Bruce Street reconstruction project. They received $500,000 in tax sales that occurred in 2019. And then taxation revenue is up about 6% or $500,000 from 2018. Down halfway down the page, it shows expenses. So overall, they were up $2.1 million. So kind of some offsetting thing there from the revenues. So although they received $790,000 from Grey County for their share in Bruce Street project, they also spent that money on the Bruce Street project. So it's in and out there. Same thing with the tax sales. They received $500,000 in tax sales, but they had to pay out that money to the courts. So it gets shown as a gross amount, revenues and expenses. So annual surplus is revenues less expenses for the year. So West Grey had annual surplus of $792,000 during the year. The next page is the statement of net financial assets. It's a required statement under PSAB. There's not a whole lot of value, in my opinion, to it, but it does show kind of some of the ins. You can see that West Grey purchased $5.8 million in tangible capital assets during the year. There was amortization of $3 million, and then a loss on disposal of $200,000. And it just kind of reconciles net financial assets for the year. The following page is the cash flow statement. So this shows that what West Grey, how they generated cash and what they did with it. So halfway down the page, you can see a number. It's 5.492 million. So that's what West Grey generated in cash during the regular operations. So then further down the page, it shows what did West Grey do with their cash. So they have capital activities. So they purchased $5.8 million in capital assets. Investing activities, they purchased investments of $5,000, and financing activities, they repaid long-term debt of $150,000. And then it brings you down to net cash at the end of the year of $5.5 million. On the next page and throughout the rest of the document, there are the notes to the financial statements. I'm just going to point out some of the more important notes here. So on the page that's up there now, on the basis of consolidation, so I just want everyone to realize when I say consolidated financial statements, it's not just West Grey. So it includes West Grey's financial numbers plus West Grey's Library Board, Dayton Union Cemetery Board, the Durham BIA, the Durham Cemetery Board. And then in addition to that, it includes West Grey's share of the Elmwood Fire Department, West Grey's share of the Saugeen Municipal Mobility and Regional Transit, Elmwood Community Center, and the Saugeen Municipal Airport. So I'm just going to point out a couple other notes here on page 22 of the document. It outlines a note 10. It outlines reserve and reserve funds. Sorry, 22 at the bottom of the page is Cody. It'll be, I'm not sure what page it'll be. It's note 10. So this is reserve and reserve fund. So this is what West Grey has set aside for future projects. It just shows the different areas and stuff like that. And so there's $7.9 million set aside for future projects. And Carrie does have a better detail on what each of these items are. It's a lot more detailed on what the specific projects are. But just pointing out that it has increased $300,000 this year, and it has increased from 2015, it was only at 6.1 million. So it does show that West Grey is putting aside some money for some future projects. And the only other note I wanted to point out is the very last note on page 32. It'll be note 21. So this is a new note this year. It's a subsequent event note. It'll be fairly prevalent in all municipal financial statements. So it just states that COVID has had a significant impact on the municipality since year end, and there's a lot of uncertainty around its overall impact, and there still is. It does show that the municipalities receive some additional funding to help offset some of maybe the reduced revenues. So that's just one new note that's in the statements that wouldn't have been in there in past years. So from a review of the financial statements, West Grey's financials are sound. They've done a good job of reducing taxes receivable at December 31st. And yeah, so West Grey has net financial assets of 3.8 million. Reserve and reserve funds of 7.9 million, and annual surplus of $792,000. I'd like to thank Carrie and her staff for their help during the audit. We appreciate their efforts. If there's any questions anyone has, we're open to any questions either now or any time during the year that if council had any questions. I don't know. Yeah.
Thank you, Kevin Tremble, for that presentation. I am now opening it up for questions from members of council. Councillor Townsend, please.
Yes, it's Councillor Townsend. Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate the detail in which you went to. It makes it a lot easier to understand for everyone. In Appendix B, which was a summary of unadjusted differences, which was further down, maybe about another 15 or 20 pages, I think.
Yeah.
It's not numbered, so.
Yeah.
In there, the numbers under the net surplus don't seem to add up. It's almost like the 45,322 should be a negative in brackets. I just wasn't sure if that was correct or not.
You are right. That should be a negative in there.
Okay, I just saw for completeness it was worth having it.
Thank you.
Okay, correct. And just a comment, and not for you, Kevin, but more for staff. During the budget process, we had a report on actuals, but they were not deemed to be complete until the audit is done. And I'm wondering if staff will be issuing a revised report, if appropriate, now that they are actually complete. So we know exactly what the actuals were.
Director Mighton, would you be able to respond to that?
Yes, if council wishes, we can provide a printout of the actual final numbers of the 2019 budget versus actual, if that's the wish of council.
Super, thank you. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you as well. Anything further from members of council? Okay then, thank you very much. Great presentation from BDO. So I would ask that Clerk Scharbeck please read the motion again, and then I will call the vote.
Through you, Your Worship, the recommendation is, be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby accepts the Municipality of West Grey consolidated financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2019, as prepared by BDO Canada LLP. And that was moved by Deputy Mayor Hutchinson and seconded by Councillor Hergert.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion indicate with a check mark. Those opposed indicate with a X mark. As I call your name, please state your name and also state how you're voting. To begin, Mayor Christine Robinson, I am in favor of this motion. Councillor Townsend,
Councillor Townsend, in favor.
Councillor Hergert,
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Councillor Shea,
Councillor Shea, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, I'm moving on for the time being. Councillor Hamilton,
Excuse me, Councillor Hamilton, yes.
Councillor Hutchinson,
Councillor Hutchison, in favor.
do we see Deputy Mayor Hutchinson on the screen at this point? All right, I'm calling Deputy Mayor does not appear to be on the screen. I am calling motion carried. Thank you. And through staff, if you're able to reconnect with Deputy Mayor to see if he has some technical difficulties and assist with that. Thank you. Item 5, closed session. That is an NA for this agenda. Item 6, matters arising from closed session, NA. Item 7, public meetings for this particular agenda, NA. Item 8, comment period. Supervisor Hewlett, have we received any emails, phone calls, or correspondence submitted in our Dropbox pertaining to comment period? Also, is there anyone on screen that wishes to speak with regard to comment period?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And if I may, we did not receive any written comments for this meeting. However, any members of the public wishing to comment at this time may either do so by raising their hand. If you have joined us over the computer, you can click the raise your hand function, which is usually located in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Alternatively, if you have joined us over the phone, you can press *9. I do see one member of the public wishing to comment. Would you like me to unmute them?
Yes, please.
If they can just state their name and their comment, I will unmute them now.
Good morning.
Hi. Hi, it's Marion Ratcliffe. I've been in contact with Cody. I am having a heck of a time hearing you, Mayor Robinson. I can hear pretty much everybody else, but for some reason or other, your voice isn't coming through loud and clear today.
Okay, well, thank you very much. How is my audio now, Marion?
That's a lot better.
Okay, so I just need to keep this little device on my earbuds a little closer. Thank you for taking the effort to calling in and letting me know about that during comment period, but also for following through on the agenda. Very much appreciate it. Anything further?
Great. No, that's it. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Supervisor Hewlett, is there anyone else?
At this time, I'm not seeing any members of the public wishing to make comment.
Okay, and I would also ask Councillor Hutchinson to remove his check mark. Thank you. Okay, we are now on item 9, adoption of minutes, of which you will see item 9.1, September 15, 2020 Council, 9.2, September 28, 2020 Joint Council Meeting, West Grey and Grey Highlands, 9.3, September 8, 2020 Committee of the Whole Planning, 9.4, September 29th, 2020, Committee of the Whole. 9.5, August 19, 2020, Saugeen Municipal Airport Commission. 9.6, August 12, 2020, Economic Development Advisory Committee. Clerk Charbet, could you please read the motion?
Through you, Your Worship, the recommendation is that Council adopts the minutes of September 15th, 2020 council meeting, September 28th, 2020 joint council meeting, West Grey and Grey Highlands, September 8th, 2020 Committee of the Whole Planning meeting, and September 29th, 2020 Committee of the Whole meeting as printed and circulated, and that council receives the August 19th, 2020 Saugeen Municipal Airport and August 12th, 2020 Economic Development Advisory Committee minutes for information.
Is there a mover for this motion? Councillor Townsend, are you moving this motion?
Councillor Townsend, I am moving the motion.
Councillor Hamilton, are you seconding this motion?
Counselor Hamilton, I second the motion.
Questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify with a check mark. Those opposed signify with an X mark. Also state your name and how you're voting when I call your name. Mayor Christine Robinson, I am in favor of this motion. Councillor Hutchinson.
Councillor Hutchison, in favor.
Councillor Hamilton.
Counselor Hamilton, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, in favor.
Councillor Shea.
Councillor Shea, yes.
Councillor Hergert.
Counselor Hergert, yes.
Councillor Townsend.
Councillor Townsend, in favor.
Motion carried. Please clear your screen. We are now on item 10, routine department reports. 10.1, electronic meetings, software updates. Clerk Sharbuck, could you please read the motion?
Through you, Your Worship. These are both items, recommendations from Committee of the Whole to Council from our last Committee of the Whole meeting. The first one is the electronic meeting software updates report. And the recommendation is that Council approve the recommendation from Committee of the Whole that $3,500 be allocated from the Municipal Modernization Reserve to modernize technology within council chambers to manage meetings using Zoom meeting software.
Is there a mover for this motion? Councillor Shea, are you moving this motion?
I would like to move this motion with a small amendment.
Let's hear it, please.
And that staff will investigate incorporating live captions into the system being adopted.
Thank you. Councillor Hergert, are you seconding the motion as completely identified by Councillor Shea?
Absolutely. Counselor Hergert, yes.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, please indicate on this motion if you're in favor with a check mark, those opposed with an X mark. As I call your name, please state your name and how you are voting. Mayor Christine Robinson, I am in favor of this motion. Councillor Townsend. Councillor Townsend, state your name and how you're voting.
Councillor Townsend, in favor. We're having a bit of problem with mute and unmute, so.
Okay, heads up to that. Councillor Hergert, state your name and how you're voting.
Counselor Hergert, yes.
Councillor Shea.
Councillor Shea, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. I'm just going to move on for the time being. Councillor Hamilton, state your name and how you're voting.
Counselor Hamilton, yes.
Councillor Hutchinson.
Councillor Hutchison, yes, but with a question, which I was trying to get in there.
Okay.
Routine department reports, I don't see it as our agenda. Number 10. Was it in our agenda?
Yes, it is in the agenda. There wasn't a staff report relating to it. Sure. So you'll recall that both of these items were discussed at Committee of the Whole. So it's just the matter of having the recommendation from Committee of the Whole brought forward to Council for ratification. So there's no staff report associated with it, just on the agenda for these two particular items to receive ratification based on last week's council meeting.
Okay, so there was no item in the agenda then, like I don't see anything written.
Right, that's right. There was no physical report, if you will, but definitely on the agenda, there is the identification of the item and the recommendation as per Committee of the Whole. Good question.
Right, oh, yeah, okay, I just didn't see it. I see it on the agenda, but I don't see it
Yeah.
in the, so
No,
that's
and you're
fine, thank you.
You're
Yeah.
quite right. There was no page number associated with it on the agenda because it's only specific to the agenda pages. Anyway, Councillor Hutchinson, state your name and how you are voting.
Councillor Hutchison, in favor.
Thank you. And I will go back to identify Deputy Mayor. Are you there? State your name and how you are voting.
Yes, good morning. It's Deputy Mayor Hutchison. I'm sorry, I've had to relocate the position of my laptop, so hopefully this connection's better, but I'm in favor.
So we are dealing with the electronic meeting software updates with the slight change to the motion from Councillor Shea.
Yes.
So, all right.
Thank
So,
you, Mayor.
thank you very much. Motion carried. On item 10.2, anti-racism, diversity and inclusion training. This was another item that was brought forward from Committee of the Whole with the recommendation, as Clerk Scharbeck will read it, please.
Through you, Your Worship, the recommendation is that Council approves the recommendation from Committee of the Whole that staff be directed to arrange for the following training sessions to be completed in 2020. HR downloads unconscious bias training to be completed by all Council, Committee, and staff members by December 31st, 2020, and Ontario Human Rights Commission Call It Out training to be completed by all Council and staff members by December 31st, 2020.
Is there a mover for this motion? Councillor Hamilton, are you moving this motion?
Councillor Hamilton, yes, I move the motion.
Councillor Townsend, are you seconding this motion?
Councillor Townsend, yes, I'm seconding the motion.
Questions or comments? Councillor Shea.
I just wanted to alert Council that the Police Service Board is also undergoing a training session on inclusivity, and that's today at 1 o'clock. So if we're not done, I will be absenting myself at that time.
Thank you for identifying that. We hope to be done the agenda. I not only have the training, but I do have another meeting scheduled later in the afternoon. So looking forward to the training, Councillor Shea. Thank you for mentioning it. Councillor Townsend.
Yes, Councillor Townsend. Yes, Councillor Townsend. My question has to do with the publication of this requirement and the communication to committee members and how that will happen. I wonder if someone can clarify that for me, please.
Well, we did talk about the fact that we would have this on an agenda for the committee members so that there would be an opportunity for the training to take place as a grouping. I know that is something that staff are addressing, but also I wanted to get a comment from our CAO, Laura Johnston, please.
There we go. Thank you for the question, Councillor, and through you, Madam Mayor. I would propose that once staff have organized the back end of setting all of these training sessions up, we will send messages to the committee members, or if there is an upcoming committee meeting, we can have it added to their agendas.
Yeah, Councillor Townsend, at the committee of the whole meeting, when our clerk Sharback gave a very detailed presentation, it was I actually suggested that the committees receive this training and scheduled on their agenda. So it looks like staff have been preparing that. Anything further?
No, the reason I was clarifying it was I understand what happened at committee of the whole. It was more the formal process of making sure that committee members knew it was coming rather than going to a meeting and find that it's happening. So anyway, thank you very much. I've got my answer.
Oh yeah, for sure. They'll get the heads up on that. Communication is key. Members of council, are there any other questions? Seeing none on the dashboard. All those in favor, please indicate with a check mark. Those opposed, please indicate with an X mark. As I call your name, state your name and how you are voting. To begin, Mayor Christine Robinson, I am in favor of this motion. Councillor Townsend.
Councillor Townsend in favor.
Councillor Hergert.
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Councillor Shea.
Councillor Shea, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson in favor.
Councillor Hamilton.
Councillor Hamilton, yes.
Councillor Hutchinson.
Councillor Hutchison in favor.
Motion has carried. Just switching over to the next page as we clear our dashboard. We are now on item 11, miscellaneous correspondence. Item 11.1, items requiring action, of which there are 3 items. First one, 11.1.1, request from Tim Curry regarding detecting at Glen Elg Community Hall. Clerk Sharbuck, do you have any comments with regard to this? Other than the gentleman is asking to utilize his metal detector around Glen Elg Community Hall. If he locates something, to dig it, and he's identified that he will share it with the municipality. How does council wish to deal with this? Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, I just have a concern in that I'm curious about, let's say he finds something, who has the rights to it, who profits from it, sort of thing. Is it something, you know, if there's some value in it and he puts his pocket and walks away and he gets the benefit? If it's of historical significance, does it belong to the municipality? What do we do with it, sort of thing? I mean, it can be displayed or whatever. So I'm just curious about how the whole rights things comes about on this.
Yeah, and it's not clear, and I agree with you. This is our property. It's you know, an icon in the Glen Elg community. So I would not be looking to move any further with this than to receive and file, but looking for other members of council opinion before we dispense of this correspondence.
Okay.
Did you want to move a motion as you still have the floor?
Well, I think I'd like to hear from other councillors first and then go
Fair
from
enough.
there.
That sounds fine. And
Yeah.
all right, so I move on to Councillor Townsend.
As Councillor Townsend, I had exactly the same concern, and I think it can be settled pretty simply by just saying that, you know, while the excitement might be in the find for Mr. Curry, perhaps he'd be willing to just turn over whatever he finds to the municipality, and the decision can be made after that.
Okay. Anything further from members of council? Councillor Hamilton.
Well, thank you, Mayor Robinson. I just appreciate hearing from staff who are managing that property and responsible for the upkeep of that property, if they have a comment, please.
I'm going to put this over to CAO Johnston.
Thank you, Councillor Hamilton, for the question, and through you, Madam Mayor. I'm just reading one part of the letter where Mr. Curry is saying if he does find old items, he would enjoy sharing them with the owners and caretakers of the property. So I'm wondering, I'm thinking out loud that perhaps a conversation with Mr. Curry, and we adjust the word sharing to returning them to the caretakers of the property, which would be the municipality. I haven't heard of any concerns from staff about him having this hobby activity at the property, but I do concur that, if there's treasures, they need to be enjoyed by the public, not just our treasure hunter.
Anything further, Councillor Hamilton?
No, and thank you for that comment. Thank you.
Okay. Anything further, members of council? Councillor Hergert?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Considering where a septic bed may be and any electrical lines and so on like that, I guess I feel it would be important that he would be attending with staff. Maybe there's a day in the fall that some preparation work goes into the building, and maybe that it's while staff are there that they could direct where the digging might be. I think that would be important as well.
Thank you for that. I'm just wondering if it makes sense for staff to have a conversation with this gentleman and bring something back further, or does council wish to just address the correspondence based on the request? Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, Councillor Hudson. Just a thought. Yeah, that's my concern, is that this gentleman just going ahead and doing this on his own. Like, we do have a committee that oversees the Glenelg Community Hall, that if they had a member be willing to spend some time with this gentleman, and as he discovers things, they're there to say, okay, that's great, let's keep that. That's no value or whatever. Just so that we have some input on what's there, what's found, and then just we have some bit of oversight. That's all.
Yeah, if we're going to address the committee in this, I'm wondering if we want the committee's opinion on whether they would be in favor of unearthing the land around Glenelg as well. After all,
Yeah.
there is a memorial for our soldiers and our veterans. So I'm wondering if there may be some concern. Okay, I'm going out on a limb. Would council like a report back from staff? I'm indicated here that that could be addressed rather quickly, connection with our Glenelg Community Hall Committee, and perhaps just a further discussion with Tim Curry and have that report brought forward. If somebody is thinking that's the pathway, we'll be looking for a mover of the motion. Councillor Townsend, would you move a motion to that effect? Is that what you're thinking?
Councillor Townsend, yes, I would.
Okay, we see the clerk just writing down the motion to that effect. Councillor Hutchinson, is that something you would second?
Yes, I think that would be a good idea. I'll second that.
Okay, and as the clerk is just writing down the wordsmithed motion, I'm going to take a question from Councillor Shea, who's indicated with his hand up. Councillor Shea, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. You are getting very quiet again on my end.
Thank you. Yeah.
But I don't really think this warrants a staff report. It seems like a very simple, almost trivial request. I see people using these metal detectors on public property all the time, particularly at the beach at the Middle Dam. They're out a couple of times a year looking for people who've lost loose change and things like that. I imagine. These people do this as a hobby. They're very respectful. They ask for permission because they don't want to encroach on other people's jurisdictions. So I would my first instinct would be to just say yes. If we're not going to just say yes, then I would just say no. But I don't think we need to get staff involved with delivering a report. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that. We do have a motion moved by Councillor Townsend, seconded by Councillor Hutchinson. And I wonder if the clerk could just read her the motion that she's wordsmith is for report back, connection with the Glenelg Hall Community Committee. and connection with Tim Curry.
Through you, Your Worship, the motion moved by Councillor Townsend and seconded by Councillor Hutchinson is that council hereby directs that staff consult with Mr. Curry and the Glenelg Hall Committee and report back to council.
Okay.
However, that's
where it stands
that's
right
where it
now.
stands.
Any further questions before I call the vote then? Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, and I agree with Councillor Shea in some ways that we don't need a full-fledged report. I think we just need some communication back and forth.
Right.
But I do have a concern of people that go onto the beaches with their metal detectors. They're kicking around some sand and maybe find some objects where we're talking this potentially could be digging holes, sort of like, you know, the skunks in the ground or the raccoons come into your backyard and dig a bunch of holes, which don't look very nice if it isn't done properly. So I would just, you know, like to see that it's done in proper manner, and there's potentially for more significance, I think, in this area than just along the beach area. So I don't think we need to spend a lot of time on it, but just communication is important.
Very good. All those in favor signify with a check mark. Those opposed with an X mark. As I call your name, state your name and how you are voting. Mayor Christine Robinson, I am in favor of this motion. Councillor Hutchinson.
Councillor Hutchison, in favor.
Councillor Hamilton.
Councillor Hamilton, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, in favor.
Councillor Shea.
Councillor Shea, yes.
Councillor Hergert.
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Councillor Townsend.
Councillor Townsend, in favor.
Motion carried. Thank you. Item 11.1.2, Grey Bruce Huron, pardon me, I have to take my glasses off to read this. Grey Bruce Huron branch of St. John's Ambulance, request for financial support. Council, how do we wish to deal with this correspondence? Councillor Hutchinson.
Yes, just had a question, Councillor Hutchison here. How is this group funded traditionally? Like I'm really not sure on that.
Director Mighton, would you be able to respond?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yeah, I'm just wondering how this group is funded. It's the Grey Bruce St. John's Ambulance. You know, I realize they do training and whatnot, but they must have some funds coming from somewhere. Do we know where?
I'm not familiar with how they get their funding, if it's ministry or all donations. I'm not privy to that information.
Right. So I know it's challenging times right now. Everybody's struggling and whatnot, but I'm just curious of why they're reaching out. I don't think we've supported them in the past, so I could be wrong.
Director Mighton, are you able to respond to that?
Yep, it's been a few years since we've actually provided any grants to organizations to the group, but we have on and off over the years provided them with some funding. This year, when we did our budget, we did not provide an allotment for that group.
Thank you. Councillor Hutchinson, I have some information through Supervisor Hewlett.
Okay.
Thank you for the question, Councillor. If I may, the St. John's Ambulance, they are a private organization, so majority of their funding does not come through the municipal sector per se. Majority of it comes through grants. However, the large portion of their funding comes through their training courses that they offer, as well as if you were to have the St. John's Ambulance attend your event, there is a fee based on that. So majority of it's just a basic revenue stream of training and you pay if you were to have them at an event.
Yeah. So if I may.
Yes.
So my suggestion, I think we would just defer this because we've obviously canceled all our other donations to other community organizations at this time because of budget constraints and COVID. So I would say we just defer it for now.
Okay, thank you. So before, are you, so by deferring it, are you?
Or receive it for information if you
Okay.
like.
Sorry, I was just looking for clarification. Yes, it would be deferred to a particular time, or you're receiving it for information. Now, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to say at this point, is there a seconder for that motion? Deputy Mayor, are you seconding that motion to receive?
Yeah, this is Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. I will second that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm looking for questions with, starting with Councillor Townsend.
Thank you. It's Councillor Townsend. I'm concerned about just deferring it, given that it is a COVID-related and other levels of government where people approach them because they have a gap, if you will. They're
Councillor?
not saying, let's defer it. They're actually addressing the issue. And I think
Councillor
I would
Townsend?
rather see it addressed. Yes.
I just want to interject, if I might. Councillor Hutchinson has changed his motion to be to receive the correspondence at this point. It's not to defer it, it's just to receive. I just wanted to let you know as you speak.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And so also, I was going to say defer, sorry, was not the action per se, but defer it, meaning in the sense that we don't address it, rather than the formality of deferring it where we don't do anything. I'm thinking that they're not asking for a lot. And if they're approaching others and getting some help, because normally it is through revenue or fundraising. And in this particular case, they're still going to try to provide the training. And if not, then we lose the training. And if we are participating in that, then we also stand to lose. So I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Well, thank you as well. And thank you for the latitude of just letting me explain the change to the motion. Anything further from members of council on this? So again, Clerk Sharbeck, just the motion is to receive the correspondence. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate with a check mark. Those opposed with an X mark. As I call your name, state your name and how you're voting. To begin, Mayor Christine Robinson, I am in favor of this motion. Councillor Townsend.
Councillor Townsend, not in favor.
Councillor Hergert.
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Councillor Shea.
Councillor Shea, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, in favor.
Councillor Hamilton.
Councillor Hamilton, yes.
Councillor Hutchinson.
Councillor Hutchinson, in favor.
Motion carried. 11.1.3, request from Dr. Stefan Sees regarding 240 Garifraxa Street North, Durham. I'm going to say that our CIO Johnson, would you just give a recap on this correspondence? And then I'll ask if there's any questions from members of council, as well as a motion, and if members of council can clear their dashboard. Madam CIO.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would also like to note that our planner, Ms. Spencer, is on the call as well, so she could probably speak to the walkthrough that she and our building official hosted with Dr. Sis. Dr. Sis has been looking for property in Grey County, particularly West Grey, because of the proximity for his clients. So this is a very interesting proposal, and perhaps Ms. Spencer has some other information on in addition to the letter. He does outline why it is attractive to him, so for council's consideration.
Planner Spencer, please.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. This particular individual, this property is very prospective to him. It is designated in a way historical and has some value to it. So, excuse me, I apologize. They're looking to develop an institution of some sorts. Of what he does is medicinal dental work, and he does enjoy the historic of the building and has no intention of changing that factor. So council needs to really have a determination if they are going to be okay with that component.
Well, thank you for that. So I'm going to take questions from members of council, beginning with Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think this is a great opportunity if to first of all sell a building that's sitting there and doing nothing, but also it can benefit our community. I'm just curious about like, are they planning on using the whole building? And I wondered about did you talk about accessibility? Because I would think that would be an issue for setting up some kind of clinic. So just a couple of questions there.
Yeah, and I'm going to go to Planner Spencer. And on top of that, Planner Spencer, I will ask the question that if members of council are interested in pursuing this further, what would the next step be? And what would you be looking for as a requirement or a motion from this council to move forward? So with a bundle of questions, beginning with Councillor Hutchinson's questions, Planner Spencer, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As long as you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, good. So they are very respectful of the heritage component, but as that question lies, they do need to have accessibility. So there are a few issues with respect to parking, and in the sense as well, they're going to have a ramp to get outside of the building because these children, when they come out, are sedated, so to speak. And so, yes, they will definitely need to have accessibility.
And in terms, okay, Councillor Hutchinson, further?
All right, I just wasn't clear from the letter. They are talking about purchasing, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, yes, thank you.
So Planner Spencer, just further on the inquiry that I made on the tail end of what Councillor Hutchinson was asking, should council be interested in this, what would be the next step and what would you be looking for with regard to a motion from this council? Just to give an idea for this council.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, we need to make sure that it's been clarified as or declared as surplus, and we already have a value added evaluation of the cost of the land. So really it just requires a resolution to determine that it's surplus.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm going to go to Madam CAO. And would that, what I'm hearing is, would this require a staff report should council be interested? Just looking for a bit of guidance, and I'm going to, or suggestion, and I'm going to then go to our other members of council. So to Councillor, I recognize the councillors have questions. I'm going to Madam CAO.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Spencer, for your comments. One of the other things that we would be undertaking, should council give us direction, is to get a market assessment. And when we issued the RFP, request for proposals, in 2018, the RFP included what the MPAC assessment was, but not the fair market value. So that is a process that I would recommend we undertake that. And then a staff report would come along with that appraisal to a closed session of council for direction from council to continue conversations with Dr. Seuss.
Thank you for that. Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, just last comment. I would be surprised if we haven't already declared it as surplus since we tried to sell it before, but that's something we can check into.
Yes, most definitely. Anything further? Okay, I see.
No, thank you.
Thank you as well. Councillor Hamilton.
Oh, thank you, Mayor Robinson. And it was a great conversation and seems to be a really good opportunity both for good use of the building, preserving the historical features, and providing a needed service for the community. I do have questions around communicating with the public and giving the public an opportunity to participate in the conversation, to engage the public about selling this building. So I look to our CEO for response about community engagement and feedback around the Carnegie building, please.
Madam CAO.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and to Councillor Hamilton. I would propose that the RFP process that we did in 2018, it was out there for, I believe, about 6 months. And as Council may recall, it was an open RFP for anybody to propose creative ideas or options for the building. And today we still are owning that building. So this report has been out in the public realm as well with Dr. Siz's letter. So I don't know, I think it's time for a decision on this request.
Yeah, thank you for that. Exciting opportunity. Anything further, Councillor Hamilton?
Yeah, I'm feeling concerned that we as a council, as newer council, as of 2019, we haven't had a public facing conversation about the Carnegie building, nor have we engaged our public. 2018 was a while ago. The RFP, not everyone's paying attention to that kind of communication and in that way. Like, we didn't have a community meeting or a survey or the other kinds of ways we can engage the public. While I'm supportive of this idea, I really am. I think it sounds like a really great use of the building, but I am very concerned that this council hasn't engaged the community. And I think from someone out in the community looking in who doesn't follow council agendas and council meetings, which would be a lot of our community, this will have come out of the blue. So I just don't want to sideline our community. I want them to be along with us as we make this important decision, nor do I want to slow down this decision. But I do think this is one step we really shouldn't jump over. Thank you.
So I just want to identify, thank you for that. There's also, we have a bylaw that speaks to sale of our public land and the identification of public advertising. I wonder if our clerk can just address that further. Because I want to make it very clear that this is, the building is right out there. It's been identified that we need to do something with the building, and then there's an opportunity before us. So I want to make it absolutely clear that this has been a public process. Clerk Sherlock, anything further?
Through you, Your Worship, that is correct, that we do have a sale of lands bylaw with very specific process set out in it. I know that the last couple of requests that have come to council have been from abutting landowners. So the process is a little bit different. For this, it's not an abutting landowner making the request. So the bylaw sets out a clear process, and there is a very public component to it, that it is part of our transparency and accountability legislation, this bylaw. So there is a public advertising piece, and I don't have the bylaw in front of me, so I hope I'm not off on this, but I think it's 2 weeks in a local newspaper as well as on our website. So it would be well known, and that 2 weeks would also allow any interested parties an opportunity to have a look at the building, perhaps decide if there's something they would like to do with the building, if they'd like to purchase it, or even submit a proposal to council to do something other than sell that land. And that is also the fair market appraisal is part of that bylaw as well. So it's council's wish, I guess. I would recommend, if council's interested in selling this property or finding out more about that, perhaps staff be directed to proceed with the fair market appraisal and a report back to council and enclosed with that. and council can determine which way to go after that as well.
Thank you. Councillor Hamilton, anything further?
Yeah, I'm still wanting to find a way to communicate with our community more or differently than we have in the past. So as I mentioned, the 2018 RFP, that was with the previous council. It was many years ago. We currently don't have media covering our council meetings. We don't have a local paper. I think I know we'd be following our process. And I know today's a public meeting. Everything we're doing today is public, but we haven't engaged the community. We have to find another way to get the word out to the community is what I'm suggesting. And so that's what I'd be looking for as part of this motion, that staff report to council about how we could engage our community about this really important decision about a building that was, the land had been donated to the municipality, 100 years ago, I think, and a grant was received to build that building for the purposes of a library. The building belongs to our community. I just want to ensure that they know that this important conversation is happening. So I'm not sure what other language to add to this motion. Perhaps we don't have a motion yet, but perhaps we could have, perhaps we could add to the motion that staff also report back on a community engagement piece. Thank you, Mayor Robinson.
Okay, so I'm just going to go out on a limb here. Are you moving a motion for staff report back that deals with fair market value assessment and all the particulars that we need for an in-camera report, but also on the engagement piece?
Yes, that would satisfy me greatly. Yes, thank you, Mayor Robinson.
Okay, thank you. Would there be a seconder for that? And with that, I'm looking for a check mark before I go any further. I see Councillor Townsend, you've had your check mark up for a while, but I'm going to ask, are you seconding that motion? Because I operate on check marks for movers and seconders.
Yes, it's Councillor Townsend, and yes, I will second that motion.
Okay, now I'm going for questions and I'm beginning, or comments, and I'm beginning with Councillor Hergert, please.
Yes. Okay. So to the community engagement piece, it has been listed on our agenda a couple times. At one of the last couple meetings, I noted that this was to have been an agenda item back in March from a canceled meeting. And I was asking at that time that it be brought up that we have a discussion about the library, the former library. And so now here we are, we've got an offer or some sort of beginning of a possible, and we really haven't taken the time as council to figure out what we want to do with the property. This does seem like a viable business. It seems like a good use of the space, as previously mentioned. I'm curious about the RFP process that we did before. I believe we left that out there for a month, and there was limited comment at that time, or proposals at that time. That was also offering an option to do a lease, a long-term lease. Now, because of the change of use that would be required, maybe our planner could comment. If we were leasing the building out, is the change of use appropriate, or does the applicant have to own the building to change of use?
Planner Spencer, please.
I guess that's a question to our planner. Yep.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, I do believe this is a positive thing for the community. Acting on a planning level and a economic development level, I don't really see why we need to put this person through certain parameters when they're very willing to do what they're doing. So I guess if you, Councillor Hergert, if you want to give me a more direct question, I'm happy to answer it.
So the direct question was, if the person is leasing the property, would they be the change of use applicant on a planning matter?
So at this point in time, they are, thank you, through you, Madam Mayor, they are permitted to do the use that they are requesting. So it would not be a change of use, so to speak, other than through a building permit program. But they are permitted as a land use to do what they would like to do. I don't know if that answers your question, but they are permitted.
Further, Councillor
Okay, so it
Hutchinson?
wouldn't require any zoning change. It would not require any zoning change of use or anything like that. It would just be in the building department,
That's correct.
the change of use. Okay, so we have been down the RFP path before, and that didn't garner anybody from our community. I believe there was one proposal post-closing of the RFP. I am, such as Councillor Hamilton already mentioned, looking for the fair market value updated, but to also have a community meeting about this. Like I already mentioned, it was to have been on an agenda back in March of this year and has not resurfaced for a public discussion. If we at all entertain moving forward on the sale, we should definitely have signs posted in the lot of the former library building, as that is a very identifiable location and people are continually looking to see what we are doing with that building. So yes, I agree. This does seem like economic development. It seems like good use of the building. But as Councillor Hamilton mentioned, this was a donation. This was a community investment 100 years ago for the development of our community. It was donated from the mechanics group. And we've put a lot of community effort into it over the years. We haven't had any conversation about having it for ourselves to open back up. I mean, we've been paying the utilities on the building for 2 years. We just haven't had that conversation. So I would look for more information to come back at a closed session with the details of current market value and community meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hutchinson?
Yeah, Councillor Hutchison here. I think we have a golden opportunity here. I can't see why we would really put this individual off for any length of time, given that we had this building and we chose to sell it because of the handicap, the accessibility issues. We know that if we keep it, I know the community. We've heard rumblings, oh yeah, we could use it for a museum or whatever. But again, it comes back to the municipality having to put a lot of money into this building to make it accessible. We weren't willing to do that as a library. I don't know why we would do it now. This building needs some work. If you look at the stonework in front, it needs some work. This individual's willing to keep the heritage aspect of it, put some money into it, obviously, going to create a business, going to bring people to town. I don't know why we wouldn't go with it. Yes, the community, you look at some other communities, they've taken these buildings and they've sold them to lawyers. They've sold them to individuals who have kept the heritage look of the building, but yet it's a viable business. So I think we've got a golden opportunity to make a move here. Yes, I'd be in favor of the fair market value. If we want to ask the public to give us their comments, but we've been there, we've had people. We put it out there for people to come up with a plan of what they'd like to see this building, and nothing's really happened. It's just sitting there and it's an eyesore. So I think we need to move on this and not stall. That's my comment.
Thank you. And before I go to Councillor Townsend, I just want to remind everybody, I'll be asking the clerk to read the motion shortly here that was moved by Councillor Hamilton and seconded by Councillor Townsend. All right, hang on a second. I will go to Councillor Townsend first, and then I see our planner also has a comment. But Councillor Townsend first, please.
Thank you. I actually think the motion that's on the floor does satisfy all of the needs that we've been identifying through the discussion. For example, we're asking for a value. We're asking for a discussion to come back. We're asking for it on our agenda. I was going to raise the issue that it was on the March one, but if we put it on the agenda for receiving the information that comes back from staff, then we'll have that discussion. I sincerely and vigorously support Councillor Hutchinson. It's costing us money. We're not prepared to invest in it. I wouldn't have quite been as drastic as an eyesore, but it certainly is something that deserves more use than sitting there vacant. No one has come forward when the RFP was out there. No one has come out since within the community to say, I'd like to do it. I can tell you there's a lot of discussion out there about the building and when are we going to do something. Been approached a few times on it. And I did say there was a discussion coming in March when unfortunately the COVID hit. But I'd like to see us move forward, have that discussion. If there are concerns about whether we sell it or not at that point, let's have the discussion at that point. And let's let the gentleman know that we are in fact moving forward to look at the viability of sort of accommodating his request, and we'll get back to him and give him a time frame if we have to. But I think we know what the timeframes are for getting the value, for staff to commit to a time frame coming back, and we can move forward. Thank you.
Thank you as well. Planner Spencer, anything to add before I ask the clerk to read the motion and we vote? Planner Spencer?
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes? Now I cannot if you're speaking.
All I would say is that this is one of the buildings that there's only 12 buildings that are Carnegie Hall buildings in Canada. And I think that's something that everyone needs to consider. And if we can repurpose and reuse this building, it's really important.
Thank you. Clerk Sherbeck, could you please read the motion?
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship, I just would like to confirm with the mover, Councillor Hamilton, and the seconder, Councillor Townsend, that we've captured the proper intent of your motion. So right now I have that council directs staff to proceed with obtaining an appraisal for fair market value for the Carnegie Library property and provide a report back to council regarding the appraisal, the requirements of the sale of land bylaw, and options for a public engagement process regarding the disposition of the Carnegie Library property.
Councillor Hamilton, are you satisfied with the wording?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Robinson.
Thank you. Councillor Townsend, are you satisfied with the wording?
Councillor Townsend, yes, I am.
We've had a great discussion. I'm now calling the vote on the motion. All those in favor indicate with a check mark. Those opposed indicate with an X mark. State your name and how you're voting when I call your name, and thank you for that. Mayor Christine Robinson, I am in favor of this motion. Councillor Townsend.
Councillor Townsend, in favor.
Councillor Hergert.
Councillor Herger, yes.
Councillor Shea.
Councillor Shea, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, in favor.
Councillor Hamilton.
Councillor Hamilton, yes.
Councillor Hutchinson.
Councillor Hutchison, in favor.
Motion carried. We are now on item 11.2, items for information, of which there are a number of them listed on the agenda. Clerk Sherbeck, would you read the motion?
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship. The recommendation is that all correspondence items not otherwise dealt with are hereby received.
Is there a mover for that motion? Councillor Hutchinson, are you moving the motion?
Sorry, Councillor Hutchison, yes, I can move the motion. I do have a question too.
All right, Councillor Hergert, are you seconding the motion?
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Beginning with questions, Councillor Hutchinson.
Yes, Councillor Hutchison. So my question has to do with the report on the planning and parkland dedication development charge, community benefits charge, I guess it is. They suggest a 4% going towards the CBC. Is that on top of the development charges? I wasn't sure how that was clear.
All right. Good question. Director Mighton, please.
Yeah, that's the regulated amount is the 4%. We don't currently have a community benefits charge, but it would be separate from the development charges.
Okay. And it sounds like that's going to be coming in and we won't have a choice on that?
No, it is optional. You do not have to have a community benefits charge, but there is different restrictions in there on the intensity of when it does apply. So as far as the application of a community benefit charge, but it's not something that we'll likely take advantage of, but we can provide the specifics and the background in there so that you can see the differences between the community benefit charge and the development charges. The consultants did speak to it when they were here for doing our study, our development charges study, but now further information has now been provided in the regulations on further details.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and I understood that. So maybe it's something we'll have further discussion down the road, but that's fine. Thank you. I do have one other question. I think it refers to the Glengarry Township of North Glengarry. Is that part of this, what we're passing here?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I'm just
receive, that is.
Yeah, it's to receive. Yeah, because I think in that case they talk about the inspections, long-term care homes, and I think that's a lot of that stuff's in the works right now. So I wouldn't be in favor of redoing that. Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Townsend, please.
It's Councillor Townsend. I just wanted to make a comment on the South Bruce letter from Mayor Buckle regarding the nuclear waste. I'd recommend people do go and read the reports that were referenced in that letter because it's very, very informative. I know last year went out to, or maybe earlier this year, it seems so long ago, but went out to the site and actually met with NWMO and learned what they were doing. And the letter references the agreements that have been put in place and the caution they're taking and the requirements they've got. And it really almost echoes what NWMO said that they were prepared to do. So it'll be interesting to see if in fact that agreement does get signed off and they do move forward in that vein. But I would highly recommend people do go and read it. It's very, very informative and it's always nice to be informed.
Great, thank you for that. I appreciate that. So Clerk Sherback, just read the motion and then I'll call the vote because we've had a little bit of discussion.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship. The recommendation is that all correspondence items not otherwise dealt with are hereby received.
Please indicate a check mark if you're in favor of the motion. If you're not, indicate with an X mark. Mayor Christine Robinson, I am in favor of this motion. Councillor Hutchinson.
Councillor Hutchison in favor.
Councillor Hamilton.
Councillor Hamilton, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson in favor.
Councillor Shea.
Councillor Shea, yes.
Councillor Hergert.
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Councillor Townsend.
Councillor Townsend in favor.
That motion does carry. Item 12, future committee meetings. There's a listing of 5 of them. On item 13, we are now on communications from mayor and members of council. I will begin. I want to tell you a couple really great things. So with regard to an update from Rockwood Terrace, I'm now able to provide one. So Grey County has secured, let me make sure that my audio is very clear. Grey County has secured the 32-acre parcel of land which is adjacent to the current Rockwood Terrace site for the Rockwood Terrace long-term care home expansion and redevelopment. The county did take title of the property on September 17th. So work continues with the Ministry of Long-Term Care with regard to the operating license and, of course, the construction funding of this project. Under the current terms of the existing operating license, Rockwood Terrace needs to be redeveloped by 2025. That is where we're at, 2025, not too far away. The current property zoning includes a holding designation. A report will be coming to this council in November from the County Planning Department to discuss the overall vision of the property and also to seek to have the holding lifted. For now, the county be looking at to enhance the security around the property by putting up some signage and improving fencing where required. There has been drone footage collected for the site to assist with completing required studies, which include a D6 study that will assess any compatibility considerations with the adjacent pit and also stormwater management plan. Recently, our long-term care, the County Long-Term Care Committee of Management passed a resolution, which is before Grey County Council on October 8th, and that is to retain a consultant to provide an assessment report of the housing build options for the property, including the initial capital costs and estimated long-term operating requirements. And I did move that motion at our Long-Term Care Committee of Management. That is a really great update with regard to Rockwood Terrace. I also want to mention that we have launched, or the county has launched, the Route 6 for transit here. Grey County Road 4 from Flesherton to Walkerton Transit Route had the inaugural bus ride yesterday. So that route will be available Mondays and Fridays. Certainly call ahead to reserve your seat on the bus. And I want to give the number. It's 226-910-1001. And you can also go on grey.ca for further information. The other routes for Grey Transit through Highway 10 Owen Sound to Orangeville, Highway 26 Owen Sound to the Blue Mountains, and Highway 6 Owen Sound to Wyerton are also on the schedule for grey.ca. It's just an exciting time because, as we all know, transit is one barrier to housing, to employment, to various lifestyles like entertainment, also to healthcare. So this is one step further in assisting our citizens of West Grey, but the citizens of Grey County. I want to definitely identify that on October 31st from 2 to 4, there will be a West Grey Halloween drive-through. Let me restate that. October 31st from 2 to 4, West Grey's hosting a drive-through Halloween party at the Durham Arena. Please go online to reserve your space with regard to that party, or call Cody Hewitt at 519-369-2200, extension 240. Cody Hewitt is our Supervisor of Recreation. There's lots more, but I wish to move on to Deputy Mayor now for an update.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. This is Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. Actually, one of the things that actually took place was the Elmwood joint fire. We've had our first meeting since February. Some good news came out of that. The Elmwood pond that had to be dug, we had a $50,000 budget set aside, and that came in at $23,500. So well under budget. We're estimating we're going to get 10 years out of that project. So that's good news, and obviously it's for the safety of the community. Quick update, Saugeen Conservation started the 2021 budget discussions. So we've had a full rally of that, and we'll be going back into that this month. Economic Development Committees, a couple things, some creative initiatives that we're looking at, and hopefully we can bring those forward pretty soon. And last but not least, I did attend my first Saugeen Municipal Airport Commission meeting. The minutes are being forwarded to Clerk Sharbeck as requested to share with the public and council. The backlog of getting these posted be streamlined over the next month, including the agenda, so we should be seeing everything. In fact, I just got this September minutes there sent yesterday, so things are starting to come around. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hutchinson, please.
Councillor Hutchinson here. Yeah, things are fairly quiet on the home front here. Just as Deputy Mayor mentioned about the economic development, the CIP program is going to be rolled out soon. We come into council, and then we'll hopefully get that rolling. So hopefully that will help some businesses. It's always a concern right now with the talk of the second wave and how that's going to affect us. I'm not sure with our community centers. They are open and being used, but we may have to do some changes there. So I guess it's a wait and see game right now. Have met once with the county regarding getting the ball rolling in terms of trails. Working on that, and hopefully as we get a plan in place and maybe look at some funding that maybe we can look to get their committee up and running. So right now the committee is not functioning, but hopefully we'll have some volunteers in the future. Other than that, I think things are quiet. So just everyone to sort of stay in their bubble and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Hutchinson, I want to also mention that the items you brought forward from Committee of the Whole in terms of addressing the cleanup of our gardens and garbage has been actioned. So I just want to thank you for bringing that forward. Anything further before I go to Councillor Hamilton?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, and thanks for bringing all of that forward. Councillor Hamilton, please.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson, and just wanted to extend appreciation to you and Deputy Mayor for advocating for that route, the bus routes along Flesherton to Walkerton. Appreciate you being a voice for Grey County, but our area too. So thank you for that.
My pleasure.
A couple things to report on. I attended a presentation by Second Wind Recycling. This was organized by the Grey Bruce Sustainability Network. Municipalities on Grey and Bruce were invited to come and see the demonstration of a portable styrofoam densifier. So we're taking that white fluffy styrofoam that we have, say, wrapped around TVs, that kind of thing, and they are able to squish it down really compact into these bricks. And so Second Wind Recycling comes to your municipality. Municipality has you'll fill a big trailer full of your residents' styrofoam, and then Second Wind comes and densifies it right on site, trucks it away, and it becomes recycled into fake lumber or photo frames, that kind of thing. So it was a very interesting demonstration. There seems to be a lot of interest, and municipalities will have to work together to bring that kind of service to our area. And I did just receive some follow-up information, so I'll be sure to flip that over to our Director of Infrastructure, who I know is very much on top of this as well. So I'll be sure to share that with him. Our climate leadership course through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities started this month. 93 elected officials from across Canada were participating, including myself and Councillor Shea. And this past month's discussion was a focus on using a climate lens in all of our decision making. So still a few more months of learning, and looking forward to sharing that with you all when the course is over. And lastly, just wanted to share, I attended an emergency food security meeting that was hosted by Bruce Grey Poverty Task Force. This meeting happens monthly, perhaps twice monthly. It was amazing to see all the incredible work of volunteers from different food banks and community gardens. And in particular, I've made a connection with a volunteer out in Meaford area who organizes community gardens, food rescue, excuse me, and second harvest. So I think I have lots to learn from this network of people, and it was just really interesting to attend the meeting. And this would be open to anyone who would like to drop in from council and staff. So it's been a very busy couple of weeks. Thank you, Mayor Robinson.
Thank you very much for a most interesting report. Councillor Shea, please.
Councillor Shea, thank you, Your Worship. Yes, so just to add to the things that have already been mentioned, I did attend the film screening, The Social Shift, the other night that was organized by our two staff representatives on that initiative, Lindsay Glazier and Cody Hewlett. I've heard about the film a lot and had never seen it, so I really enjoyed seeing it. And I'm really pleased that the social enterprise initiative, which they are leading, is moving forward. That's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hergert, please.
Yes, so harvest season has begun, and I just wish everyone a safe and bountiful harvest. As kids have gone back to school, the libraries are now opened. I actually was hoping for some sort of media release about hotspots in our area. I know that the libraries have them. The arenas have some, I think Durham and Newset and Ayton all have hotspots hooked up. And I just was hoping to get that information out of any municipal buildings that have the hotspots and how to log in. People are still experiencing connectivity issues, but hopefully everybody can get connected and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Supervisor Hewlett?
If I may respond quickly to the inquiry about hotspots, it was, I had connected with Grey County, and I believe it was through their resiliency map. There was a connection of where residents could find local hotspots. So there has been that connection through Grey County.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Councillor Townsend, please.
Wonderful. Pardon me, could I ask a question here?
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor.
Just to follow up, will that be a layer? Yes, will that be a layer on the Grey County resiliency map about hotspots? Is that what the aim was there, Cody?
Yes, I believe it is a layer. I don't know if it will stay past
If it connects yet, if
the
it's
pandemic, but that was a connection that was made multiple weeks ago. And once they requested the information, I left it in the hands of the county. But
I'll do a
that was my
follow-up.
understanding.
I could do a
okay.
follow-up. Okay. I'll bring that forward again.
Wonderful. Thank you for that connection.
Sure. Councillor Townsend, please.
Yes, Councillor Townsend, thank you. I also attended the social shift presentation and found it very informative and exciting to see how people can turn, some volunteering as well as some good for the community into a profit-making business. So hopefully we get quite a few people that do take up that opportunity. Also attended the Normandy Optimus Mystery Theater. It's the first time it wasn't done in person, but they recorded it at Trixie's, and a shout out to Trixie for allowing them to use her venue. They did an absolutely phenomenal job, and it was like going to the drive-in again, twice in 2 weeks, or 1 week. It was pretty good. So encourage people to support them. They do a fantastic job. Also, the homecoming committee is back working, and so you'll be hearing more from that. It is a 2022, just to remind folks. So you're not going to see the events yet, but you'll see some planning happening. Catch the Ace is still going for the Lions. They're in their 25th of 30 weeks. They've gone deep in every single round that they've done. So, good for them. Gives them a lot of fundraising, which benefits the community. On a personal note, I had the privilege of attending the Canadian Warplane Heritage Museum on September 27th. It was a Sunday, to see Robert Middleton get inducted as an honorary member of the Snowbirds, which, in case you don't know, is Squadron 431. Bob actually was a member of 431 Squadron and flew 33 missions in Europe during World War II, and he's 97 years old, and he's only the third person to actually be inducted into as an honorary member into the Snowbirds. And I'm proud to say that he's the great-grandfather for my grandchildren. So that was why it was quite exciting for our family. So I'll close on that note. Thank you.
That's a very nice, positive family note to close on, Councillor Townsend. I also want to mention that this is Fire Prevention Week. So the week of October 4th through to the 10th is Fire Prevention Week, and this year's theme is Serve Up Fire Safety in the Kitchen. So wanted to identify that. Also, members of council, we've talked about having a training session with regard to a walkthrough of our website. That will be taking place either before or after the October Committee of the Whole meeting. It'll be a Zoom meeting. It'll be a public, like an open public, so anybody that wishes to listen in from the community and gain some information in terms of navigating our new website, please join us. But members of council, this is an anticipated, fun, and interesting session to be taking place. Okay, now Councillor Townsend, I see your hand. I don't want to ignore it, but I do need to move on the agenda. Is your hand just up because you have not taken it off, or do you have a question?
I have a further comment on the meeting, the future meetings. I put my hand up, but unfortunately you moved on too quickly.
I did not see
The
your
library
hand
date
at
is
that
actually
time.
the 14th.
Sorry, Councillor Townsend, I didn't see your hand at
That's
that
okay.
time, so I do want to apologize. It's
That's
never my
okay.
intent, but please go ahead.
Yeah, I just didn't want to miss the point that the library meeting is on the 14th, not the 16th. And there's also a budget meeting for the library of their finance subcommittee happening this Friday at 10 a.m. So it's only fair that we be as transparent and accurate as we can. And I just wanted to make sure those messages get out. Thank you.
Oh, thank you too. Okay, perfect. So we've completed item 13. We are now moving, I apologize for the rustling of my pages, although it does make for a very realistic meeting doing that. Item 14, business arising from the previous meeting. Item 14, business arising from the previous meeting. 14.1, notice of motion, AMO conference, additional correspondence. Councillor Townsend, you have moved this motion. Would you please read it, if you don't mind, or you could have the clerk read it, but I'm going to invite you to read your motion.
I'm actually going to make a statement before I do, if you don't mind.
Well, could you read your motion? I need a seconder, and then you can make your statement, and then members of council can proceed with any questions or comments. So
I'm actually going to withdraw,
okay.
which is why I wanted to make the statement.
So you've withdrawn your notice of motion?
Yes,
Clerk
because
okay. Yeah.
because I realized also there are other issues with the conference bylaw 72/2001-8. Technically, none of our compensation should have been paid because it refers to getting paid for days we are away from home. So what it told me is there are some other maintenance activities that need to happen, and perhaps we can address all this as part of the maintenance.
Thank you. So the motion is withdrawn. Clerk Scharbeck, any other housekeeping that we need to do with regard to this item before I move on to item 15? Okay, the clerk has identified nothing further on that. Thank you, Councillor Townsend, for the withdrawal and also the explanation for that. Item 15, staff reports. 15.1, Director of Finance and Treasurer. 15.1.1, approval of the accounts voucher 17. I'm looking to Clerk Scharbeck to read the motion and then a mover and seconder for this motion, if I might.
Thank you. Through your worship, the recommendation is that council approves voucher number 17-2020 in the amount of $770,946.96.
Is there a mover for this motion? Councillor Townsend, are you moving this motion?
Councillor Townsend, yes, I'm moving the motion.
Councillor Hutchinson, are you seconding this motion?
Councillor Hutchinson seconds the motion.
Questions, members of council? Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, just a question for our Director of Finance. I'm curious, when they do the entries, there's a duplicate entry and one entry is in black, the other one is in red in brackets, and I'm not sure if I totally understand why that is. What does the brackets in red mean?
Good question. Director Mighton.
So it relates to the HST rebate that we've claimed on there. The initial amount will be the full invoice cost, including HST, and then the negative may be the HST rebate. The other item that might be a credit would be if if we've returned an item and it's actually a credit note because we returned a part or something like that.
Okay, thank you. I wondered what that was.
Yeah.
Thank you. Further questions, members of council? On the motion, all those in favor indicate with a check mark. Not in favor, indicate with an X mark. Also, state your name and how you're voting when I call your name. Mayor Christine Robinson, I am in favor of this motion. Councillor Hutchinson.
Councillor Hutchison, in favor.
Councillor Hamilton.
Councillor Hamilton, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, in favor.
Councillor Shea.
Councillor Shea, yes.
Councillor Hergert.
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Councillor Townsend.
Councillor Townsend, yes.
That motion does carry. Item 15.2, Director of Infrastructure and Public Works. 15.2.1, West Grey Landfill Operational Review. Clerk Scharbeck, could you please read the motion?
Through you, Your Worship, the recommendation is that Council receives the West Grey Landfill Operational Review, and further, that Council approves the implementation of new hours of operation and the revised fee structure.
Is there a mover for this motion? Oh, one moment. It's been muted. Is there a mover for this motion? Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, are you moving this motion?
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. This is Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. I would like to move that we defer this report and take a different motion that's in front of us at the appropriate time, or however the clerk would like this handled.
Clerk Scharbeck, can I take the motion at this point to see what the way the mover is deferring the motion, but he's also indicated something further in his motion? Now would be the time. Go ahead.
Through you, Your Worship, just to clarify, the motion is to defer the report to a future meeting, or can we set some parameters on when it's deferred to?
So based on that, what I take from the clerk is, Deputy Mayor, could you please identify your whole motion? Thank you.
Yes. Good. Thank you very much. Well, I'd like to defer the report based on this. I move that we receive the report for further discussion, including public consultation through our social media website. And I'd like to see some live surveys completed at our landfill sites conducted by staff and possibly some student volunteers with all our ratepayers that use them. And it'd be a discussion around the days and hours which would best suit the taxpayers' needs, as opposed to us just selecting that. Done properly, this could take us up to possibly a month to complete. So I think that's one part of it. The report does not make reference to any of the handling of organic waste or used clothing. Both of these household items make up a huge amount of waste, and there's ways that we can handle these differently. So I'd like to see some further information on that. And last but not least, I would like to have some information in the report regarding the charges for household garbage bag drop-offs. If curbside's $2 a bag, and it's $5 for the first bag and $2.50 for each additional bag taking household waste to the landfills, I'd like to know what the actual revenue savings are by the public going there versus curbside pickup. I've always been confused on that. Do we get charged by the tonnage, I guess is what I'd like to know. Also, I just want to reference that the 2-week waiting period for curbside pickup in the summer is too long. There's a lot of critters and people are forced to use the facilities just because of the nature of what the garbage is in a 2-week period. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to summarize this and then I'm going to look for a seconder on it, just to be very clear. So you are receiving the West Grey Landfill Operational Review Report, but you're suggesting that this matter be deferred until a further report be brought forward that addresses organic waste management, clothing or fiber management in our landfill. Also, you want a discussion with regard to curbside pickup versus drop-off at the landfill in terms of revenue, the $2 versus the $5, just to say that in a summary form. Also, a discussion in the report with regard to the bi-weekly curb pickup, or whether that needs to be enhanced or modified in some capacity. Also, a big component of what you're saying is dealing with consultation with our ratepayers and business community with regard to the suggestions within this operational review report, and that staff undertake surveys, and also we deal with this public engagement. Okay, is that what it is that you're trying to say? Deputy Mayor.
Yes, so thank you, Mayor Robinson. I was quickly disconnected and back on, but I caught the gist of it. Yeah, that is exactly what I was going for. Thank you.
Okay, I wanted to summarize that, also to give an opportunity for the clerk to wordsmith. So this is something that I'm trying to assist with. Now, based on that, I'd want to know if there's a seconder for this motion. Councillor Townsend, are you seconding this motion?
Councillor Townsend, yes, I am, because I had exactly the same concerns that the Deputy Mayor raised. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So as the clerk is wordsmithing the motion, I would take questions at this point, beginning with Councillor Herger, then Councillor Hutchinson. Councillor Herger, please.
Thank you. I also was curious about the date scheduled or proposed.
My goodness, Councillor Herger, you're losing audio. I do apologize for interrupting you. Is there a way you can address your audio?
Can you hear me better now?
Not so well. Try again.
My comments are the dates that are proposed. I would like to see that we have Bentic landfill opened more often. I realize that is a proposal, but that is where we have the most space, as well as the only location that takes large, bulky items. So I think that's important. Also curious, we have scales at Durham. However, we aren't taking large, bulky items there. So I'm almost curious about moving the scales to Bentic, if that's where we're only receiving large items at. Also, the layout of the landfill, there's a certain location that I believe it could be made easier if the items that are no fee, such as scrap metal. If scrap metal was brought up to the front near recycling, then before you ever would go over the scales, you would have all your get rid of no fee items done and dealt with, thus reducing the amount of laps or trips over those scales. So I think maybe a little bit of the layout change. I don't see any of that proposed. Also, looking to our sustainability committee to see what items they have that would amplify the cleaner area, less garbage being landfilled, all of those items. I know there were some suggestions brought up. Not sure if we're able to do those this year or how we would amend that for next year. I thank you for the report. It was a lot of information. I'm glad to see that the director is willing to make some changes. I feel like there potentially may be more changes that are required. And I am supportive of the deferral at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. So I just want to recap based on what you've said. and ask the mover and seconder if they are amenable to include it in their motion for a report back. So options for the scheduling in Bentic, adding an additional day to the Bentic landfill, discussion on the scales, ability to move them from Durham to Bentic, what would that look like, and also any consideration to layout of the landfill sites. The connection with the Sustainability Committee, I would suggest would be part of the ongoing engagement, but we'll fold that in. So, mover, Deputy Mayor, are you okay with those additions to the report? We'll get a full report and then we'll have a full discussion at an upcoming meeting. Are you in favor?
Yes, Mayor Robinson, I just wrote briefly the opening paragraph to what I was suggesting is that we need to go to the ratepayers and we need to find out what best suits their needs for what days. And that's kind of what that was driven at. So if we cover that in that first part, but I'm fine with the changes.
No, that's good. And we hear you loud and clear. Seconder, Councillor Townsend, are you fine with the additional information?
Councillor Townsend, yes, I am happy with those.
Thank you. Councillor Hutchinson now?
Yeah, Councillor Hutchinson. Yeah, I'm fine with deferral. I do think that this is a topic, it's a hot topic and we need some further discussion. I was going to suggest, would it possible to get some feedback, like whether through surveys or whatever, social media, to the October 27th meeting? I know our director, the employee standards, I think is sort of what's driving some of the changes, and he can maybe make a comment on that, but I understand where he's coming from, where they're not getting lunch breaks, they're not getting coffee breaks. So we need to do some changes there, and maybe we'll have to do a temporary to do that. But the other thing that I'm going to make comment, and maybe he can correct, is I think in the report there might be an error. I can't believe that we pay our employees $98 million for the year in salaries. I think that might be $98,000.
Okay, let's get that.
If they're paying $98 million.
Director Mighton, could you address that immediately, please?
Yes, it does look like there's a typo there. You're correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, and thank you for identifying the typo and finding humor in it, Councillor Hutchinson. In terms of your request or your ask to have the report at the end of October, it's been identified that is not possible. There's a lot of work involved. The staff are really working on this. They will get this report to us as quickly as possible, but October will not be the meeting at this point for that report.
So yeah, so just my concern is that there's a lot of discussion here. There's a lot in this report, and there's a lot to be discussed about this report. So we do need to take the time. I'm concerned that our directors may be wanting to resolve the issue with the employee standards. So I'm not sure how we go about that.
So I can tell you through our CAO and the director that they are managing staff, but the overall big picture of the landfill issue, yes, hot topic. Yes, we need to do a lot of decision making on this, but I think we've really, the deferral is most appropriate, and there's a lot of additional information we're asking, as well as the consultation with everybody. Okay, Councillor Hamilton, Councillor Hutchinson, pardon me, I almost do a roll call. Thank you,
No problem, that's fine, thank you.
Okay, before I call the vote on this, Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. And just wanted to say thank you to our director for coming to us in October with a report as he promised, and for finding efficiencies and trying to eliminate duplication of service and finding more opportunities to divert more waste. So it's much appreciated. Thank you, Director. And so I'm just looking for some clarification about the motion, if I may. Are we suggesting that we're going to have a more wholesome conversation about this, and maybe committee of the whole is the kind of meeting to have that conversation, and that we'd have that conversation before engaging the public? Is that what the motion is saying?
So what we're going to get clarification from the mover and seconder. Oh,
thank you.
Pardon me, can you hear me now?
That's
we're
better.
going to get clarification from the mover and seconder. The clerk has asked for that based on her wordsmithing. She wants to be very accurate. There, of course, the report will be public. There's a lot of information in it, and we certainly need to engage our citizens. Okay, Clerk Sherbeck, could you go through it? And then heads up to Deputy Mayor Hutchinson and Councillor Townsend. Please watch for clarification in your motion. Clerk Sherbeck.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship. I would just like to clarify that this is indeed the intent of the mover, Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, and the seconder, Councillor Townsend, and that all of the points have been captured in this resolution. So this is what I have so far. That Council receives the West Grey Landfill Operational Review Report, and that the decision to amend hours of operation and the landfill fee schedule be deferred until such time as a report is brought forward to Council that addresses the following. 1, public engagement, including in-person surveys at the landfills regarding changes to landfill hours and the fee schedule. The second point, information addressing on how we will address organic waste, clothing, and fiber waste. Third point, charges at the landfill for household bagged garbage versus curbside pickup costs. Fourth point, consideration of changes to the bi-weekly curbside pickup schedule. 5, options for an additional for additional hours of operation at the Bentic landfill. And 6, information regarding options for where the landfill scales are to be located. So if I've missed something, if somebody could help me out and let me know, that would be great.
So there was also just an identification for layout. There was an interest in knowing what the layout of the landfill would look like. Also, let's not forget about the consultation with our ratepayers, our stakeholders.
That was the first public engagement point.
Oh, okay, thank you. So, I wasn't actively listening at that point. Yeah, I just want to make sure that that whole engagement with our ratepayers, our business community, our agricultural community, all of those stakeholders that the mover and seconder were addressing.
Could I, through your worship, and with the approval of the Deputy Mayor Hutchinson and Councillor Townsend, just change that first point rather than public engagement, including in-person surveys, just clarify that to be that the report addressed the following. Results of public engagement with residents and business community, including in-person surveys at the landfill. And at the final point to be addressed in the report, the layout of the landfill or proposed layout of the landfill. I'm not sure what would be asked.
That was just a question in terms of what would be overall the landfill. But our director can address that. Actually, mover of the motion, Deputy Mayor, does that encompass your motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Robinson. Just for clarity, I'm not asking for a public meeting on this. I think the clarity of what the clerk has said is public consultation. So I'm not looking specifically for website, social media. I am looking for an actual survey at each one of the facilities done, whether it be students or staff or whatever we're doing, just so that we're engaging beyond the scope of just social media or, again, website. Right. That's what I wanted to have clarity on.
Can you put that into his motion?
Through your worship, I have, let me just find this. Just to be clear on the wording, that council receives the report, the decision be deferred until such time as the report is brought back to council that addresses the following. Number 1, the results of public engagement with residents and business community, including in-person surveys at the landfill regarding changes to landfill hours and fee schedule.
Okay.
Yeah,
no, that's wonderful. Thank you
is
for
that Sue?
clarity.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. As the seconder, Councillor Townsend, are you fine with the language in the motion?
Councillor Townsend, yes, I'm fine with that. Thank you.
Okay. We've had great discussion on this. I see there's a couple questions. I guess you sense I was going to say I would call the motion. Councillor Hamilton.
There we go. Thank you, Mayor Robinson. I'd just like to go to staff regarding their feedback about the motion and specifically the public engagement piece, please.
So on the public engagement piece, CAO Johnson.
Yes, thank you through Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Hamilton, for the question. I would propose that we can do surveys at the landfill site. Social media is also another avenue which will probably garner some feedback. So I have no concerns with that piece of the motion.
Thank you, CEO. And then further to Councillor Hergert's looping it back to the Sustainability Advisory Committee. I was just thinking there is in 2020 budget, we did, council did budget for film plastic recycling. And at that time, the committee was going to bring that information forward to council. However, the committee's been unable to meet due to COVID. And so could this report also include information about film plastic recycling? And I'd be most happy to share the information I have with the director for his information. So I'm asking if that could be included as well, please.
Move with the motion, including film plastics. What was the other thing, Councillor? What was the other fiber?
It was film plastic recycling. Thank you, Mayor Robinson.
Thank you for the clarity. Move with the motion. Can we include that? It was Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
Thank you. This is Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. Yes, I'm fine adding the film to it.
Thank you for that. And seconder, Councillor Townsend.
Councillor Townsend, yes, I'm happy with including it as well.
Anything further, Councillor Hamilton, before I go to Director Shurinsky?
No, thank you.
Thank you for including those. Director Shurinsky? We're just looking for another report back, understanding it's going to take some time to do the research to provide us with the additional information. Anything further, Director Shurinsky?
Yes, Your Worship. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Most definitely. I just wanted to comment and thank you very kindly for all the interest and all the questions about our landfill sites and about our waste management. That's I'm very happy to hear all that. I just wanted to comment about the survey. Staff can endeavor to attempt to conduct the survey at the scale house at each landfill site. However, staff are extremely challenged to get traffic in and out of the landfill sites during their shift and to conduct a survey and explain the survey at the gate, in person, at the landfill site. I'm not so sure that it's going to yield the results that council is looking for. And so I would request that your worship members of council would consider some other survey media, if you will, to achieve this, because operationally at the gate, this could prove to be extremely challenging.
Okay, Director. we will have all that ironed out with our CAO and yourself with regard to awareness of the survey at our landfill sites, but certainly all the traditional ways of managing a survey through the office and our traditional outreach. Correct, Madam CAO? We'll just ensure that this is a fulsome survey to address our stakeholders for awareness and getting their comment. Madam CAO, is that it's able to be achieved?
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. I didn't realize I was unmuted. Yes, and that may entail just providing the survey. People can fill it out. They can return it at their leisure. I don't know that I agree with the director that completing a survey on site at the time might not be feasible, but we can certainly engage with our patrons and get the survey into their hands. We'll fine tune.
It'll not just be at the landfill site. It will be engaged through our media release, have it on the website, etc. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody else with a hand up. I think we're clear on the motion. It's a long one, very thorough. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor indicate with a check mark. Those opposed indicate with an X mark as I call your name, state your name, and how you are voting. Mayor Christine Robinson, I am in favor of this motion. Councillor Townsend?
Councillor Townsend in favor.
Councillor Hergert?
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Councillor Shea?
Councillor Shea, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson?
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson in favor.
Councillor Hamilton?
Councillor Hamilton, yes.
Councillor Hutchinson?
Councillor Hutchinson in favor.
Motion carried. We look forward to that report. Item 15.3, Clerk. 15.3.1, Appointment Bylaw Amendments. Clerk Sharbeck, could you please read the motion?
Thank you. Through your worship, the recommendation is that council receives the report, appointment bylaw amendments for information.
Is there a mover for this motion? Councillor Hamilton, are you moving this motion?
Councillor Hamilton, yes, I move the motion.
Councillor Hergert, are you seconding this motion?
Councillor Hergert, yes. I do have a slight amendment to one page as well.
Okay, let's hear it.
On page 229 of our agenda, being number 5, committees and boards authorized by separate bylaws, there's just a spelling error. In number 6, second line, very end, to be an ex officio member of a specific committee. Here it says to Ben, B-E-N.
Thank you. And good eye on editing there. Thank you. Are there any questions with regard to this motion and report? Councillor Shea.
Thank you. It's Councillor Shea. So the motion is to adopt all of these changes, do I understand, to the bylaw procedure, the appointment procedures, like this 20-page report?
Yeah, for clarity, Clerk Sherbeck.
Hi, thank you. Through you, Your Worship. That's a really good question, Councillor Shea. Just to be clear on what this report is doing, it's really just information for council. These are just draft bylaws that I would like to bring back for council's approval at the October 20th meeting. And I didn't want to bring a long list of bylaws on the agenda back that council has never seen or had an opportunity to read through. So that's why this is just a preliminary first step in doing the cleanup. And then it doesn't approve any of the changes or any of the bylaws or repeal anything. But what it does is prepare us with some background information. So on October 20th, if council deems it appropriate to pass these bylaws, we have a clean version of exactly where we're at today to take into our October 27th Committee of the Whole meeting for a fulsome discussion then where council may want to go through each committee their mandate, their terms of reference, and determine that it is indeed still serving council. Or if there's changes to be made, either to committee structure or terms of reference at that October 27th meeting, at least we're all working from the same page and it's a clear outline of what we've got right now. So today is just information about what's coming.
Okay, so if we were going to ask for tweaks or adjustments, we would do that at that future meeting.
I would suggest that if, do you mean to this?
To the committee compositions, for example.
Yes, that would be, this isn't changing any of the committees or removing any committees or adding any committees. It's just cleaning up the list of what we've got. So on October 27th, I would want council to provide all the input on what stays, what goes, what's amended, anything like that. And then following that October 27th meeting, we'll have a chance to do a revised version of our appointment bylaw and start 2021 with our committees appointed and hopefully ready to reach out to their chairs and recording secretaries to do a little bit more communicating with them and perhaps some training as well. Does that help?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, as you know, we've been very active with our citizen committee appointments. We've had some citizens regretfully have to not participate in the committees. We've had some other citizens volunteer. We've had a lot of resolutions and updated amending appointment bylaws. So this is a consolidation of everything, but the clarity that this clerk has brought forward is the separation of bylaws with regards to those boards that are identified through legislation, and also clarity of the appointments, all consolidated within these bylaws. So that's where we're at right now. Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. To our clerk, I think you're also looking if we have any amendments to the listing. It's not too late to let you know, and we could just send that to you. I do believe there's one person listed on the library board who's no longer on the library board. Thank you.
Through you, Your Worship. Thank you, Councillor Hamilton. Yes, I was hoping that having a draft version of these, you all have your specific committees and boards that you belong to and are hopefully able to send me a quick email with any updates on names. And I was wondering about one of the library board members, but I didn't want to remove anybody without actually being sure.
Okay,
So
will do.
any updates to the names? Yes, please just send me an email, and when they come back on the 20th, they'll be correct.
Thank
for
you very
where we're
much.
at today. Thanks.
Thank you.
Councillor Herbert.
Thank you. Also looking on October, when we come together, will we have the costs, the annual costs for meetings, mileage, any monies that are sent, budget, I guess, budget numbers for each committee, as well as how each committee fits into our strategic plan? Is that possible for our Director of Finance as well as our clerk to work together to bring that information forward for October's meeting as well?
Clerk Sherbrooke, what's the intent of your report?
Through you, Your Worship. Really, the report today is just a first step. That October 20th, there'll be a number of bylaws coming back that will allow a fulsome discussion on the 27th Committee of the Whole. So Council is working with an up-to-date, clear listing and understanding. So at that October 27th Committee of the Whole meeting, I would like to be able to provide Council with the information they need about the committees. So the structure, so this listing, the mandates, the terms of reference that each committee is working with. I'd also like to think about or at least raise the discussion item about recruiting new members and advertising fairly across the municipality to engage our citizens fairly. Any annual training that we want to establish and reach out to our committee members, especially chairs and recording secretaries. There may be health and safety training that we need them to complete, as well as the annual anti-racism issues. I would like to include the costs. Some people on the committee are paid for those meetings and some are not. Some are paid mileage and some are not. So those are things that it's an opportunity to bring all the information forward to council, and it's council's decision really how we move forward with the committee structure and how we make things consistent and fair for across our committees. So yes, how they link to the strategic plan should be tied into their mandate, really. I hope that answers the question. That was lengthy. Sorry.
Well, I definitely appreciate the information you've provided. I guess I was also curious if there were resources from West Grey. Some of the committee may have an admin person or a recording secretary or something of that nature, and everything else that you advised on or that report. Thank you very much, Clerk.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further from members of council? Okay. Clerk Sharbuck, could you please read the motion again? Moved by, looks like Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Hergert.
Thank you. Through your worship, the recommendation is that council receive the report, appointment bylaw amendments for information.
All those in favor signify with a check mark. Those not in favor signify with the next mark. As I call your name, state your name and how you're voting. Mayor Christine Robinson, I am in favor of this motion. Councillor Townsend.
Councillor Townsend, in favor.
Councillor Hergert.
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Councillor Shea.
Councillor Shea, yes.
Deputy Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, in favor.
Councillor Hamilton.
Councillor Hamilton, yes.
Councillor Hutchinson.
Councillor Hutchinson, in favor.
Motion carried. Could you please clear your dashboard? Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, do you have a question?
Yes, thanks, Mayor Robinson. I was just wondering if we could have a 5-minute quick break, please.
Okay, 5 minutes. I think that's great. See you all back at 12:30. Thank you, one and all. Hello, we are back at our October 6th council meeting. Thank you one and all for being punctual so that we could start back at 12:30. We are on 15.4. I hope my audio is good for everyone. 15.4.1. Oh, this report on is for the Chief Administrative Officer. 15.4.1, Enbridge Expansion Project in Elmwood. Clerk Sharbuck, could you please read the motion?
Thank you. Through you, your worship. The recommendation is that report Enbridge gas expansion in Elmwood be received and that council provide direction regarding tabled motion 111-20, requesting the municipality make a financial contribution toward the Elmwood expansion project.
Thank you. Is there a mover for this motion? Councillor Hamilton, are you moving the motion?
Councillor Hamilton, I move the motion.
Councillor Hutchinson, are you seconding this motion?
Councillor Hutchinson seconds the motion.
Questions or comments with regard to this motion, starting with Councillor Hutchinson?
Yeah, just a question, Councillor Hutchinson here. I'm in favor of giving them the incentive because we did it for Ayton, but I'm wondering how does that work with Elmwood when it's sort of a split community and Brockton isn't supporting this initiative. So I'm not sure how that works.
Thank you. This item is under our CAO's portfolio. So CAO Johnston, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, and to Councillor Hutchinson, I will defer to the treasurer, but my understanding is that what we are waiving is the West Grey property tax portion. Brockton has no implication on what we decide to do on our side of the boundary.
Director Mighton, please.
Yes, that is correct. We are only speaking to our share of whatever the assessed value of the pipeline would be on there, and this motion would waive the tax for just our share. If Brockton doesn't do the same, then they would collect taxes for theirs. We can't. We have no control over theirs.
So if I may,
yes.
So my question is, where the line goes, whether the gas line goes on our side of the property or on Brockton's side of the property, is that a factor?
It could be, if depending on where, and I don't know if it will cross, depending on how it comes into, if it were to cross from ours and then go over into as it's heading towards, a service area. Anything in Brockton's side would be their share.
Right. So I sort of look at it as being an incentive to bring gas to Elmwood, but I'm not so sure. It seems like we'd be given an incentive to Brockton people along with the Brockton people at Elmwood, along with the West Grey people at Elmwood. So it seems sort of a wonky situation, I think. But anyways, I'd be in favor of doing it, since we did it for Ayton, just to get gas there, and I'm sure the people that would appreciate it.
Thank you for that. I see that our planner has her hand up. Laura Lee Spencer, do you have a comment on this?
Hi there. Yes. No, I think it's the the sense with the gas line running where it may or may not be able to go. It's the easiest line of communication in terms of it might have to cross a field, and there's definitely going to be an easement resorted to that, but it's not about, it doesn't follow straight lines, if I can put it that way.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Is there any other questions from members of council? Councillor Hamilton, please.
Oh, thank you, Mayor Robinson. Could our treasurer please remind us of what financial incentive we did arrange for the other pipeline?
Yes, Director Mighton, please.
If you give me a minute, I will see if I can pull that up. Just a second.
Thank you. So while our director is looking for that information, yeah, we've had some time to reflect on this conversation that we had a few months ago, and my mind hasn't changed. I'm not interested in providing a financial incentive to a multi-billion-dollar company. We have indicated our support with a letter of support, which is one of the ways we can support, which is matching the level of support from Brockton as well. Now we know that. And I think, we'll find out from our treasurer soon how many years of taxes would be waived, but let's just say that's $100,000 of taxes. And these are the moments as council that we find these savings and reinvest them in our community. So instead of $100,000 going out the door to a private company, we could use that money to repair the Elmwood Community Center or provide library service, these kinds of things. So this is the moment where we make those decisions, and I look forward to hearing from our director if she has that information. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Mighton, are you now available?
Yes, so I'm not sure if I've got the gist of what you're looking at. In the report, it does note when Ayton and Newstead, when we had those applications based on the estimated value of the pipeline, we were looking at our share being about $8,500 to $9,000 per year. So depending on the amount of the assessment value for Elmwood, if it was a smaller portion, it may be a smaller amount per year, but not knowing that assessment value on the length of the pipeline, it's difficult to come up with an exact dollar. But
Thank you,
in our
Director.
total assessment for pipelines, we get about $46,000, and that's on where it goes through everywhere in West Grey.
Thank you, Director. And was it, do you recall if it was a 10-year or 15 years worth of waiving those taxes?
I believe it was 15.
15 years. So that adds up for a community. And in those moments where we're looking to repair the windows at Elmwood, or, you know, plant some trees along Main Street, this is where that money can be used. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Shea.
Yes, it's Councillor Shea. I had similar concerns as I did when we were discussing Ayton. And I haven't seen any indication from Enbridge that our contribution is a deal maker or a deal breaker. So if I thought that this contribution would get natural gas there, and without this contribution it wouldn't, I would support it wholeheartedly. But my feeling is that that is completely irrelevant to the decision makers at the gas company, and that all we're doing is throwing away money that we could be using for other purposes in the municipality. So that's why I wouldn't support such an initiative. Thank you.
Councillor Townsend.
It's Councillor Townsend. I have a slightly different view. First of all, it does benefit our community to get the actual gas through and the cost to them, which I'm sure they'll appreciate. Second of all, it's not throwing money away, it's also investing it. And it's investing it in the sense of attracting development, or more people to come to the area, perhaps even businesses, etc. And while it may not necessarily influence the ultimate decision when all is said and done, if they're this far down the line, it could be a breaker if they have A versus B and their costs get deferred in some way. So I don't see it as a total waste, and I do see it as an investment, a part of economic development. And I think we have to look at more things in that vein and see how it does benefit us. Also, if we change our approach for this one, what message you're resending versus what we've done in the past. And I realize there's a reason to change your mind. I'm not quite sure what that reason is in this case. So I'd support still offering that same incentive. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything further? All right, so I see that the motion is moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Hutchinson. The first part of the motion, that the report, Enbridge gas expansion in Elmwood, be received. But the second part, we're looking for, or staff is looking for direction, because it reads that council provide direction regarding tabled motion 111-20, requesting the municipality to make a financial contribution towards the Elmwood expansion project. So the mover, can you identify what direction you are providing? And then I would look for the seconder to concur with that, if that is the case, or not concur, whatever the councillor wishes. So Councillor Hamilton, how are you addressing the second paragraph of this motion?
I appreciate help with the wording to our clerk, but
Okay.
that council matched the same support as Brockton.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Clear. Clerk Sharback, does that work? What do you need for that?
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship. We can address it that way in one motion, or the mover and seconder may consider receiving the report and bringing from the table motion 111 and then voting on the motion, which sounds like it's amended to, let's see, to say that instead of Oh, what did the original motion say? Amend that tabled motion when it's brought from the table to provide the same consideration as Brockton did at that time. So I guess receive the report and bring from the table the motion, and then vote on the motion, which we can amend to say, make a contribution equal to the Municipality of Brockton's contribution, if that's Councillor Hamilton's wish.
Yes, please. Thank you, Clerk.
And to clarify Brockton's contribution? Yes.
I believe, oh, okay, through your worship, my understanding is Brockton's contribution was $0 at this time for this piece in Elmwood.
Okay, so I wonder if that needs to be identified. I'm just asking so that it's clear that it doesn't look like Brockton is actually contributing. So I don't know, Clerk Sherbeck, if that language needs to
Can
be
you write out the original? I think when the tabled motion comes back, I'm just looking for the original motion so I can read it to you. Oh, is it? Thanks. It says in the amount equivalent to the property tax that would be received on the natural gas infrastructure for a period of 15 years. That could be clarified to be either council could vote and just vote down this motion that's been tabled, or they could amend it to say provide provide no contribution to this project in line with Brockton's contribution, or something like that, to clarify that we're not making a contribution to it, just like our neighbors Brockton did not make a contribution to it.
Got it. So before I go back to Councillor Hamilton, I see that Councillor Hutchinson has his hand up. Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, Councillor Hutchinson. So I'm not sure, I second the motion, I believe, but I think I was seconding the fact that we're receiving a report. I think as far as voting on direction of whether we're given an incentive or not, I think that needs to be a separate motion.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much for that. So with that, I'm going to ask Clerk Sherbeck to walk us through this motion or motions, because there's the technical procedural point in lifting from the table. So take us through all of this.
Through you, Your Worship, thank you. As the mover, Councillor Hamilton, had agreed to, the recommendation is, this first recommendation to be voted on is that the report Enbridge gas expansion in Elmwood be received, and that council bring from the table motion 111-20, requesting the municipality make a financial contribution to the Elmwood expansion project. So this first motion is simply receiving the report and deciding to bring forward that tabled motion and talk about it next.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes.
Is that,
Councillor Hamilton, is that good for you?
Yes, thank you. I think that's very clear and very fair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hutchinson, is that clear and good for you?
Yes, that's fine.
Thank you. So with that, I will call the vote on this particular motion. All those in favor signify with a check mark. Those opposed signify with the next mark. As I call your name, please state your name and how you are voting. Mayor Christine Robinson, I am in favor of this motion. Councillor Hutchinson.
Councillor Hutchinson, in favor.
Councillor Hamilton.
Councillor Hamilton, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, in favor.
Councillor Shea.
Councillor Shea, yes.
Councillor Hergert.
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Councillor Townsend.
Councillor Townsend, in favor.
Motion carried. Could I please ask all members of council to clear their dashboard? Now, Clerk Sherbeck, on the next portion that we need to deal with.
thank you. Through you, Your Worship. The tabled motion is now on the floor, And it reads, be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby support making a financial contribution towards the proposed Elmwood expansion project by Enbridge Gas, Inc. in an amount equivalent to the property tax that would be recovered on the new natural gas infrastructure for a period of 15 years. So that is the motion that's on the floor for Council's consideration right now. It can be voted on as it is, or it can be amended. It's Council's wish, Your
So at
Worship.
this point, I would look for a mover and a seconder. Yes, I got a thumbs up from the clerk, but before I do that, Councillor Shea, you have your hand up.
Oh, I was going to move an amendment to the motion, but I'll let you get a mover and a seconder first.
If he wants to move it amended.
So Clerk Sharback, if you could just speak to that. So, okay, he's the, Councillor Shea is saying move ahead with a mover and a seconder on
Yes.
this. So
I agree.
see that your pause, that's what we're looking for. Councillor Hergert, are you moving this motion?
Councillor Hergert, yes, I move the motion.
Deputy Mayor, are you seconding this motion?
This is Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. I will second the motion.
Questions or comments? All right, I'm looking for questions or comments. Councillor Hamilton?
I would move to amend the motion that council support match the level of financial support of Brockton.
So just give me a moment. So I asked for a moment in order to allow the clerk to just write that down. But I have a question. Clerk Sharback, is that a friendly amendment or is it contrary to the motion at hand, which I believe is unfriendly? But I want a clerk perspective on this.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yep.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. That's a good question. It's, Councillor Hamilton did move to make an amendment to change the motion to read, I believe, instead of in an amount equivalent to, change that last part of the sentence to match the financial support of Brockton. And if there's a seconder to that amendment, then that's how the main motion will read.
That's why we have a clerk to handle all this procedural stuff. So it's move the amendment by Councillor Hamilton. Councillor Shea, are you seconding the amendment?
Yes, I second the amendment. Councillor.
Thank you, Councillor Shea. So with that, I would ask the clerk to read the motion that is before us now, and then I'll go to Councillor Hutchinson, who has a question.
Through you, Your Worship, the amended motion. I guess we have to vote on the amendment, and the amendment would make the motion read, be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby support making a financial contribution towards the Elmwood expansion project in an amount equivalent to the financial support of Brockton. Is that the correct intent? I would ask the mover.
Councillor Hamilton, is that the correct intent?
Oh, thank you. It's the right intent. I must concur with the mayor. She spoke earlier about the wording. It would be confusing for the public. So I wonder if there's a way, the intent's right. Is there a way that it could read, well, just be really clear that there was no financial contribution and we're matching that. So clerk, I'm tossing it back to you to see if there might just be a little wordsmithing there to make it more clear.
Right.
I don't mean to be ambiguous in any way.
No, I think I agree. It should be clear. And the motion that was tabled does specifically provide a contribution. So the amendment is perhaps, I'm thinking it's the exact opposite of the tabled motion, that perhaps it's best just to vote on the motion that was tabled and sort of dispose of it that way. Or we could amend it to say, well, it's hard to amend it to be the exact opposite. Basically, it needs a vote.
Okay.
That
So we're going
I'm
back.
wondering if Councillor Hamilton and Councillor Shea may proceed with the amendment, and we would vote on that.
Okay.
However, that doesn't seem to be quite the wording or the intent that's very clear for the public, and perhaps not for councillor staff either. But if that amendment was withdrawn, we could go back to vote on the main motion, which was to provide the contribution. So an amendment might
If I can
be,
make a point of order.
Yes, please go
Point
ahead.
of order.
Yep.
I believe we have a motion on the table, do we not? We had a motion, we had someone who passed the motion and seconded the motion. It was Deputy Mayor and Councillor Hergert, I believe, was it not? And that was to give an incentive to the Enbridge gas. So I don't know why we're amending, and if we are going to amend, shouldn't we be asking the original movers and seconders to amend the motion rather than creating a new amendment?
Yes, and thank you for that. I was waiting for the Clerk Scharbeck to complete her discussion point, but going back, the mover, Councillor Herger, seconder, Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, was on the tabled motion. Could that please be read?
yes, through you, Your Worship, just to clarify the process. Moved by Councillor Herger, seconded by Councillor Hutchinson.
Deputy Mayor.
Oh, sorry, Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, pardon me. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby support making a financial contribution towards the proposed Elmwood expansion project by Enbridge Gas, Inc. in an amount equivalent to the property tax that would be recovered on the new natural gas infrastructure for a period of 15 years. Moved by Councillor Hamilton and seconded by Councillor Shea is an amendment to change the wording to match the financial support of Brockton. However, I'm suggesting that the amendment is exactly contrary to the main motion and is not an appropriate amendment after all. That if that amendment, if the mover and seconder agreed to withdraw that amendment, that puts us back to the main motion. But the amendment was moved and seconded, and it must be dealt with first, either withdrawn or voted on.
Okay, and that is in our terms, friendly amendment versus not friendly amendment. It's an unfriendly amendment because it is not in line with the original motion, just to put it in language that I can understand. Okay, Clerk Scharbeck? Yeah, okay, so in your terms, we have to vote on the amendment because it, correct?
Or withdraw it. It is contrary, exactly contrary to the main motion. So it doesn't really fall into the parameters of an amending motion, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
That is,
so
I would recommend it be withdrawn.
So the mover, Councillor Hamilton, and the seconder, Councillor Shea, of your amendment, what do you wish to do with it? Councillor Hamilton.
I appreciate protocol. So if it's the clerk's recommendation that this doesn't quite fit, then I take that advice. So thank you. I would withdraw the not so friendly amendment.
Shea, as a seconder, do you agree with that?
It's Councillor Shea, I concur. I just don't like the characterization of an unfriendly amendment. Friendly amendments are accepted without a vote. Amendments that require a vote are not necessarily unfriendly. They're just taking a different tact. So I would like to steer us away from that sort of language use. But I'm happy to withdraw.
The item, the motion is withdrawn, the amendment by Councillor Hamilton and Councillor Shea. The main motion before us, moved by Councillor Hergert, seconded by Deputy Mayor. Could we please have that read again? There's been a lot of discussion.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship. We are back to the main motion brought from the table and moved by Councillor Hergert and seconded by Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby support making a financial contribution towards the proposed Elmwood expansion project by Enbridge Gas Inc. in an amount equivalent to the property tax that would be recovered on the new natural gas infrastructure for a period of 15 years.
Okay, there are some hands up. Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so if we vote and it gets turned down, then we're automatically, we're saying we've already sent a letter recognizing that we support the expansion project, but this is the motion is to, are we going to support it with a monetary value? So that sort of goes back to where Councillor Hamilton and Shea are saying they want to support it, but not in a monetary fashion, which is what Brockton did. So I think that's an automatic if the motion gets defeated. But in the meantime, we have a chance to vote on this original motion. That's all I'm saying.
Yes. And Madam CEO, that original correspondence has been sent out with regard to engaging Enbridge Gas that we are interested in this project for Elmwood. Can you just confirm that that correspondence has been sent out?
Excuse me, yes, through you, Madam Mayor, to Council. The letter of support for the project, there's two pieces that we were dealing with in May. So the letter of support has been provided in accordance to the requirements. We just didn't deal with the financial contribution.
Thank you. Councillor Hamilton.
Oh, thank you, Mayor Robinson. I'd just like to ask for a recorded vote. Thank you.
Yes. Clerk Sherbrooke, it's now in your hands for the recorded vote.
Okay. Thank you, Your Worship. Is it your direction to call the vote now?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Being a recorded vote, I'll ask Councillor Hamilton, how do you vote?
Councillor Hamilton? No.
Councillor Hutchinson? Oh, sorry, Councillor Hergert, how do you vote?
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Councillor Hutchinson, how do you vote?
Councillor Hutchinson, in favor.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, how do you vote?
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, in favor.
Mayor Robinson, how do you vote?
Mayor Christine Robinson, in favor.
Councillor Shea, how do you vote?
Councillor Shea, no, and I'm going to excuse myself from the meeting at this point.
Thank you. And Councillor Townsend, how do you vote?
Councillor Townsend, in favor.
And that is carried.
Thank you. Councillor Shea identified early in the meeting that he would be excusing himself for 1 p.m. rather, because he is attending virtually a training session. So let the minutes reflect that. We are on item 16, bylaws. 16.1, bylaw number 66-2020, Integrated Maintenance and Operations Services, Inc. Agreement. Clerk Sherbrooke, could you please read the motion?
Possibly. Yes, thank you, through your worship. The recommendation is that bylaw number 66-2020, Integrated Maintenance and Operations Services Inc. Agreement be read a first, second, and third time.
Is there a mover for this motion? Councillor Townsend, are you moving this motion?
Councillor Townsend, yes, I'm moving the motion.
Councillor Hergert, are you seconding this motion?
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Are there any questions on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify with a check mark. Those opposed with an X mark. I will begin. Mayor Christine Robinson, I am in favor of this motion. As I call your name, state your name and how you are voting. Councillor Hutchinson.
Councillor Hutchison, in favor.
Councillor Hamilton.
Councillor Hamilton, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, in favor.
Councillor Hergert.
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Councillor Townsend.
Councillor Townsend, in favor.
Motion carried. Item 16.2, bylaw number 67-2020, confirming bylaw, confirm proceedings of the council, let me start again. Bylaw number 67-2020, confirm proceedings of council for October 6, 2020. I don't know why I found that not intuitive. I do apologize. Clerk Scharbeck, please.
Through you, Your Worship, the recommendation is that bylaw number 67-2020 to confirm the proceedings of council for October 6, 2020 be read a first, second, and third and final time.
Is there a mover for this motion? Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
This is Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. I will move the motion.
Councillor Hutchinson, are you seconding this motion?
Councillor Hutchison seconds the motion.
Questions on the confirming bylaw? All those in favor signify with a check mark. Those not in favor with an X mark. Mayor Christine Robinson, I am in favor of this motion. Members of council, as I call your name, state your name and how you're voting. Councillor Hutchinson.
Councillor Hutchison, in favor.
Councillor Hamilton.
Councillor Hamilton, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, in favor.
Councillor Hergert.
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Councillor Hergert, could you please restate that?
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Thank you. Councillor Townsend.
Councillor Townsend, in favor.
Motion carried. Item 17, new business. Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. This is Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. Back in, I believe it was 2018, there was a request to have a review on the process on how complaints are received and handled in West Grey. I believe Mayor Robinson brought that forward. To this time, we have not seen it, and this included property standard issues, trailers, other violations. Part of the request was to review the process on how citizens file a complaint without having to attach their names on an actual request form. People are asking, if that review ever came forward, and I don't believe that I've ever seen anything of it. So what I'd be looking for is when could we expect a report or a process review on how things are handled? Thank you.
Thank you for that. Madam CAO, are you able to give information or on this at this point, or is this a pending item for 2020?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for the inquiry, Deputy. I do recall that staff would be working toward looking at how our complaint process, part of what we were waiting on was the new website. So I will connect with our chief building official and see if we can pick that project up again.
But it'll be something that can be addressed this year.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other new business? I am not seeing any at this point, so I am going to move on to item 18, addendum. Clerk Scharbeck, is there an addendum?
Through you, Your Worship, no addendum at this time.
Okay, item 19, closed session, incomplete items only, NA. Item 20, matters arising from the closed session, which should be incomplete items only, NA. Question period is item 21. Supervisor Hewlett, is there anybody in the queue that would like to ask a question at this point?
Thank you, Mayor Robinson. Members of the public wishing to state a question at this time can do so by sharing their name and asking their question. To participate in the question period, you can do so by raising your hand. If you have joined us over the computer, you can press *9 to raise your hand. Alternatively, if you have joined us over the phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand or click the raise your hand button. My apologies. Alternatively, you can send a chat message to myself, Cody Hewlett, Recreation Supervisor.
Supervisor Hewlett, are you seeing anybody in the queue for questions?
At this time, I'm not seeing anybody in the queue.
Thank you. Item 22, Municipal Act notices. Clerk Sharbuck, are there any?
Through you, Your Worship, no notices at this time.
Item 23, adjournment. Clerk Sharbuck, would you please read the motion at hand?
Thank you. Through Your Worship, the recommendation is that we do now adjourn at 1:08 p.m. to meet again on October 20th, 2020 at 7 p.m. or at the call of the chair.
Is there a mover for this motion? Councillor Townsend, are you moving this motion?
Councillor Townsend, yes, I'm moving the motion.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, are you seconding this motion?
This is Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. I will second the motion.
All those in favor signify with a check mark. Those opposed signify with an X mark. Mayor Christine Robinson, I am in favor. As I call your names, members of council, please state your name and how you are voting. Councillor Townsend.
Councillor Townsend in favor.
Councillor Hergert.
Councillor Hergert, yes.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson.
Deputy Mayor Hutchinson in favor.
Councillor Hamilton.
Councillor Hamilton, yes.
Councillor Hutchinson.
Councillor Hutchinson in favor.
Motion carried. We stand adjourned. Thank you very much for an active and productive meeting. Bye now.